A service of KIBMradio.com, the Internet's home for an all old-time radio.
Stand by all stations.
Attention, all districts. A 5-alarm fire. 5 bells. Move in immediately.
That's it. Let's roll. Let's go. Firefighters.
Presenting Firefighters, the true-to-life story of our unsung heroes who stand ready to ride by day or night against our most murderous enemy, the demon of fire. In just a minute, we'll take a trip into the country where Tim Collins and his brother Jimmy are visiting their cousin Ellery Collins, chief of the Volunteer Fire Brigade of Upper Falls. Cousin Ellery hopes that Tim can find a way to combat the costly fires that are destroying property throughout the district. But before we join them, here's a message. Let's go, firefighters. Let's go to the farm where Tim Collins, rookie fireman, and his brother Jimmy are visiting their cousin Ellery. Tim is on a week's furlough from the city fire department, you remember, because Chief Cody suggested...
Collins, your cousin is in a bad spot.
Yes, sir.
And I do a lot to help out a brother fire chief, but I can't get away. I can't go out to Upper Falls myself on such short notice.
I know, Chief. And you can't give him any advice unless you know the situation out there.
Well, he gave me a pretty good size-up. I understand they have an engine they keep at the volunteer firehouse.
Yes, sir, right in the village. When an alarm comes in by phone, somebody sets off the siren on top of the firehouse.
Mm-hmm, and the volunteers come in from wherever they happen to be. But that takes time, Collins.
Yes, sir, they have too much ground to cover. And with the season so dry, even when they get to the fire, there's no water.
Yeah, that's the worst of it. That engine takes water from wells or brooks or ponds. But all those sources are drying up in this weather.
Yes, sir.
And your cousin wants to know what can be done about it.
Well, there must be something. If I could only get out there myself.
Well, you can get out there to Upper Falls, Collins. You got furlough time coming.
Oh, good grief, I forgot.
Yeah, you could spend a whole week at Upper Falls if you really want to help your cousin out of the hole he's in.
When could I be released, sir?
Well, as of this date, when you go off duty tonight. And Collins.
Yes, sir.
You'd better take that kid brother of yours along.
Jimmy? Oh, I bet Mom would let him go. I'll ask her.
He needs a run in the country. Let him work off some of that energy. Get your cousin to put him to work on the farm.
So that's why we find Jimmy Collins, Tim's 14-year-old brother, standing in the middle of a barnyard early in the morning, shouting for his cousin, young Pete.
Hey, Pete, where are you?
Here I am.
I can't see you.
I'm over here.
Oh, I want to see your calf.
Boy, were you sound asleep when I got up?
Oh, why didn't you call me? Gosh, I was going to help with the chores and stuff.
Oh, Ma said to let you sleep. She said you were all tuckered out when Pa and you and Tim got here last night.
Oh, gee, I guess I slept in the back of the car, all the way from the city.
Well, you missed it anyway. It was all over when Pa got home.
Huh? What was? What did I miss? What was it, Pete?
It was a fire up to Manichee's place on the North Road.
Oh, gee, now I remember.
What do you remember?
Well, last night we stopped downtown. Down in the village, at the firehouse.
Oh, well, that's where they are now. As soon as Pa got finished up around the place here, he drove Tim down to the firehouse.
Well, last night after the fire, there was a man down there. He was awful mad at your pa.
Yeah, that's old Tyler Bedlow.
Oh, who's he?
Tyler, he drives the engine for the volunteer brigade. Lives right next to the firehouse, so he's always first to get there when the alarm goes off.
What's he mad about? What's he mad at your pa for?
'Cause the weather's so dry, Pa says.
Oh, that doesn't make sense. He must be crazy.
Well, he's mad 'cause it's so dry there's no water to put fires out with. Pa can't figure out some way to put fires out. Well, Tyler says Pa better quit being chief of the brigade.
Oh, Tim will figure something out. That's why we came to visit, Tim and me.
Say, you want to see my calf?
Oh, gee, you bet.
Well, come on.
Well, what kind of calf is it?
Guernsey. Ah, there she is. And a pen.
That little fella?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, gosh, she's cute.
And while Jimmy is getting acquainted with Pete's personal calf on the farm, Tim Collins is getting acquainted with the equipment of the Upper Falls Volunteer Fire Brigade. Item by item, Tim goes over the equipment, hoping to churn up some new idea that will help his cousin Ellery combat the fires that ravage the countryside in this dry season. And meanwhile, back at the farm, Jimmy is asking Pete.
Hey, what's that little white building?
Oh, where, Jimmy?
Over there on the big hill, beyond the village.
Over in Hangover Hill? You came past there last night.
Is that the school, Pete? There's a flagpole out front.
Yeah, school's closed this week, same as yours.
Well, that's the school you go to. Way over there?
Well, that's not so far this time of year. And you take it when there's snow on the road, and it's twice as far.
How far?
Oh, you mean how far from where we're standing right now?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I don't know. But I can tell you how far from my bedroom to the teacher's desk. It's exactly 2 miles, 1/4, 7 yards, 2 feet, and a half a step.
You sure?
I ought to know. I walked it often enough. I gotta walk it again today, too.
What for?
Now it's my turn to feed the goldfish.
Goldfish?
Goldfish and snails. See, every day while school's closed, one of us kids has a turn to go feed them.
Walk all that way just to feed some fish? Why didn't the teacher take them home or something?
Huh? Who wants 50 goldfish flopping around the house?
50? Gee, that's a lot of fish.
Well, you'll see, Jimmy. We got a great big tank right by the window. Of course, in winter, they stay in the library down in the village where it's warm all the time so they won't freeze. Yeah, but long about as soon as she begins to warm up...
I thought you said the school was closed.
Well, sure it is. What would I be doing home this time of day?
But there's somebody over there, Pete. There must be. There's smoke coming out of the chimney.
Oh, maybe the teacher's there.
Well, why should the teacher want a fire in the stove on a day like this? Gosh, it's so hot today, nobody...
Hey, that's no fire in the stove.
Hey, no. That smoke isn't coming out of the chimney. It's just kind of leaking through the roof. Pete, the school's on fire.
Come on, we got to give the alarm.
Where are we going? Where's the alarm box?
Box? What box?
To pull the alarm.
Oh, there isn't an alarm box in the whole of Upper Falls. We got a telephone. Come on, Jimmy, back to the house. Hey, Ma! Schoolhouse is afire. I'm going to call the operator.
I got the phone, Pete. Hey, the line's dead. The phone doesn't work.
Oh, you got to turn the crank, Jimmy. 3 long rings.
Oh, here, you take it. All I know is how to dial.
3 long rings. That's the fire alarm. And when they hear 3 rings, everybody drops what they're doing and gets on the line. Hello, Miss Krasner? Miss Krasner, the schoolhouse is afire. Yeah, it's the schoolhouse up on Hangover Hill. Hey, everybody, it's the schoolhouse. Turn out the fire brigade.
As soon as she hears Pete's breathless announcement, the telephone operator in the village plugs in the line on her switchboard that communicates with the firehouse. And Tim Collins, recognizing the alarm, picks up the receiver.
3 rings. That's your fire alarm, Ellery. I've got it. Hello. Upper Falls Fire Brigade. The schoolhouse. Yeah, fire in the schoolhouse on Hangover Hill. Right, I've got it.
As he hangs up the receiver, Tim's hand goes out to the big red button fixed in the wall of the firehouse next to the telephone. He pushes the button, and the automatic alarm, the great siren on the roof of the firehouse, begins to sound, calling in volunteer firemen from all over the countryside. Wherever they are, they drop what they're doing, check with the phone operator to learn the location of the fire, and at their best speed, the volunteers close in, on foot, in cars, and some even on horseback. Already the engine driver has arrived. Tim's cousin Ellery, chief of the volunteer brigade, has climbed up beside the driver, reaches for the bell cord. And as Tim Collins leaps to a post on the rear step of the engine, it pulls out into the village street to begin the run up Hangover Hill to the burning schoolhouse. Meanwhile, let's return to Chief Cody's office in the city, where he is making an important phone call.
Hello? Hello? Oh, confound this line. Oh, hello, Jimmy. Where's your brother Tim? Huh? Gone to a fire? Trouble again at Upper Falls so soon? Well, where's... The schoolhouse, huh? Goldfish. Jimmy, get closer to the telephone. I thought you... Oh, there are goldfish. In the schoolhouse. Yes, all right, son. Go rescue the goldfish. But listen, Jimmy, when it's all over, tell your brother to call me. I've got the equipment they need at Upper Falls. Now, hold on. I want him to get that message. I'll say it again. I have the equipment they need at Upper Falls. Yeah. All right, Jimmy. Now go rescue those goldfish. Glover. Oh, find me a man to drive that new piece of equipment. Yes, I want it ready to roll to Upper Falls as soon as I've checked with Collins and the chief of the volunteer brigade.
So Chief Cody has found a possible answer to the problem of the Upper Falls Volunteer Fire Brigade. But the mysterious new piece of equipment he means to send to Upper Falls cannot arrive in time for the present emergency. And Tim Collins is about to learn at first hand the hardships of fighting fire in the country. For the story of the blaze that threatens to destroy the country schoolhouse, listen to our next true-to-life episode of The Firefighters. Now, in just a moment, Chief Bob Cody will tell all you boys and girls how you can help the firefighters in your own hometown. But first, here's a message you ought to hear. And now, Chief Bob Cody with a special notice for the Firefighters Brigade. Chief Cody.
Hello, boys and girls. This is your friend, Chief Cody, asking your help. You know that the way firemen keep little fires from growing into big ones is to get there fast, before the fire can spread. But to get there on time, the ladder trucks and engines need a clear track. So when you hear them coming, get out of the way and warn others to clear the road, to get back, stand still, and let the firemen go by. Now, you'll find some people are careless about this, and you can help us by passing the word along. And you might save those careless people from serious accidents, too. Well, that's all for now. You'll be hearing from me soon.
Fire Chief Cody and the young rookie fireman Tim Collins will be back on the same station the next time you hear...
That's it. Let's roll. Let's go, Firefighters!
Autolite and its 98,000 dealers bring you Mr. John Lund in tonight's presentation of Suspense.
Tonight, Autolite presents a story from your morning newspaper. The dramatic expose of narcotics peddling among teenagers, as reported in Melody in Dreams. Our star, Mr. John Lund.
Well, Harlow, 1952 was a pretty good year.
Pretty good? Why, Hap, they just don't come any better than complete electrical systems designed and built by Autolite for manufacturers of many leading makes of our finest cars, trucks, and tractors. All units, including the generator, starting motor, distributor, and coil, spark plugs, and batteries, are engineered to give the finest performance money can buy.
My car's Autolite equipped, Harlow.
Millions are, Hap, because Autolite electrical systems have been used as original equipment ever since 1911, when Autolite developed the first 6-volt, 2-unit electrical system for the industry. That means Autolite electrical systems have been starting, lighting, and providing electrical energy for car owners for 41 years.
That is a record, Harlow.
Yes, so friends insist on Autolite original service parts for your Autolite-equipped car, because only Autolite original service parts are related by Autolite engineering design to fit and work as a team with your car's electrical system. You'll find it pays because, from bumper to tail light, you're always right with Autolite.
And now, Autolite presents transcribed Melody in Dreams, starring Mr. John Lund, a dramatic report based on fact, hoping once again to keep you in suspense.
Hi, Lieutenant.
Where's Shank?
He's in the other office on the telephone.
Thanks.
Right, Mr. Graff. Yes, sir. I have the address. We'll try to get out there as soon as we can. Keep the girl there. Yes, sir. Oh, hi, Chris.
What was it, Luke?
Might be the lead.
Fat chance.
There's a guy named Graff, Walter Graff. He lives out on South Tyburn. He found a cache of marijuana cigarettes hidden in an old coffee can in his daughter's bedroom.
How old is the girl?
All of 16. She nearly went hysterical when the old man confronted her with a can of the cigarettes.
Yeah, they all do.
This kid's throwing convulsions. Old man must be a funny character. Can you imagine? Made a citizen's arrest of his own daughter.
For almost 6 months, the Narcotics Division had been trying to find a leak. The hole through which an estimated $70,000 worth of drugs was being passed to high school kids monthly, in the forms of marijuana, opium, and heroin. Regular stakeouts, raids, and arrests had been made. The number of teenage addicts arrested was a staggering, frightening total. Arrests made yielded the addicts, but they didn't yield the source of supply. In the meantime, public sentiment and high official pressure, abetted by the newspaper headlines, was growing, while police department investigation was groping. Each and every possible lead obtained had to be followed up. In the case of Walter Graff, who'd made a citizen's arrest of his 16-year-old daughter after discovering marijuana cigarettes hidden in a coffee can in her bedroom, another lead was about to be followed up.
This is the address, Chris.
Yeah.
Nice old house.
Ring the bell.
Sure. Well, they don't build them like this anymore.
Maybe they don't take the time.
Agnes goes for this kind of architecture.
Yes?
Police. Mr. Graff?
Oh, yes. Come in. I'm Mr. Graff.
Thanks.
Here, let's go into the living room. Please be seated. You'll have to excuse the appearance of the house, gentlemen. Ever since Mrs. Graff passed away, I haven't taken much interest in such things as cleanliness. I know it's wrong.
We understand.
I presume you're here in response to my telephone call?
Yes, sir. I'm Lieutenant Royals. This is Detective Sergeant Shank, Narcotics Detail.
Yes. I'm quite upset, as you can see. The shock.
You're only one parent among many, Mr. Graff.
Oh, I know. I read the newspapers, too. They're full of it. Every day you read about the horrible...
When did you discover the coffee can with the cigarettes, Mr. Graff?
This morning. Early this morning. You see, I didn't go to work today. I wasn't feeling very good, so I stayed home. It's the first time I've ever been absent.
Why did you wait until this evening to report the discovery?
Why did I wait until this evening?
Yeah.
Well, because I couldn't believe it. I simply couldn't believe it. Don't you understand? Joan is my child. How is a father supposed to believe such a terrible thing of his child?
We understand.
I had to give Joni a chance to deny it, Lieutenant. I had to give her a chance to yell to her papa that she knew nothing about the coffee can and its sinful contents.
Did she deny knowing about the can?
Deny it? She didn't even try to defend herself. She admitted the guilt. But what hurt most of all was her arrogance. What are you going to do about it, she said to me. And I did the only thing I thought was right to do. I called the police.
I'm sorry, Mr. Graff.
Oh, don't be sorry, Lieutenant Royals. It's a very funny story, and the neighbors will thoroughly enjoy it. Ring around the rosy. Old man Graff arrested his daughter. She's a dope fiend, pocket full of posies.
What made you suspect the cigarettes contained marijuana, Mr. Graff?
Suspect? How do I know? Well, lots of things. Joan's moods, strange moods. Moods which I can't describe to you because I don't know how. Her friends...
Friends?
One in particular. Mickey Malone. No good, Lieutenant.
I see. Where is the can with the cigarettes, Mr. Graff?
One moment. Here, Lieutenant Boyle. Here. The poison. Take it. Burn it. Destroy it.
The time was 7:30 when Joan Graff was booked in at police headquarters on a charge of illegal possession of narcotics. The file sheet also listed the name of the arresting citizen, Walter Graff, the girl's own father. Joan was a plain-featured girl, bleached blonde hair, fair skin, narrow hazel eyes, and a slim, slight frame. After Detective Sergeant Shank had finished typing the police report, we took the girl back to interrogation for further questioning. Go ahead, Joan. Sit down.
Thank you.
Tell me, Joan, how old are you?
16?
Do you know why you're here?
Yes. My father arrested me. That's why I'm here.
You've broken a law, Joan. A very serious law.
Does everyone get a sermon?
This is no sermon. You've been charged with illegal possession of narcotics. That's a very serious charge.
I know. I also know I'm a minor.
Yes, you are. In which case, you'll be turned over to the juvenile authorities.
What'll they do to me?
They can do a lot. They have the authority to take you out of school, away from your friends, give you the treatment you need. They can also send you to a detention home if necessary.
What kind of meals do they serve?
Well, they don't serve cigarettes like these in detention homes. Where'd you get them?
Nowhere.
They didn't just happen out of thin air. Where'd you get them?
I don't know where I got them.
Look, Joan, you've broken a law. You've done something very wrong. But it's not entirely your fault. You're not the real enemy. The real enemy is the person who sold you these cigarettes. And that's the enemy we want. Who was it?
Please, I don't remember where I got them.
Are you trying to shield somebody, Joan? Is that it?
No, it's nobody. I don't know.
All right, Joan. All right. You don't have to tell us. I'm not going to force you to do something you don't want to do. That'd be wrong. But there's something I want to explain to you. And I want you to try to understand it. It's about your father and what he did.
My father.
When he arrested you, he did the only thing he thought was right.
I'm his daughter. His own flesh and blood.
Yes, his own flesh and blood. That's right. Right. And don't you realize what it must have done to him inside?
I don't want to talk about him. Please.
I've got 2 children of my own, Joan. 2 small boys.
Please.
If they were older and either one of them had done something like this, I swear to you I'd do the same thing that your father did. Okay, Lou. That's all for now. Let's go.
Lieutenant.
Yes?
Lieutenant, I'll tell you. I'll tell you where I got the cigarettes.
All right, tell me.
From Nicky. Nicky Malone. My boyfriend from high school.
Do you know where Nicky gets them?
There's a coffee shop somewhere near our school. That's how Nicky gets the cigarettes, I think.
Haven't you ever been to this coffee shop with Nicky?
No. I don't even know where it is.
I see.
Shall I put out a call on the Malone kid?
No, I don't think that's necessary. We'll go out to the house and talk to him.
Lieutenant.
Yes, Joan?
I understand.
Understand what?
My father. His hurt inside. I have that same hurt.
Joan Graff volunteered the address of her high school boyfriend, Nicky Malone. Detective Sergeant Shank made arrangements for the girl to be turned over to the juvenile authorities pending further investigation, and then we went out to question Nicky Malone. The address the girl had given us turned out to be located in a rundown section of the city. 763 was a white single-frame house badly in need of repairs. The shades were drawn, but a dim light inside indicated someone was at home. Want to knock?
Sure.
Yes?
Does Nicky Malone live here?
Who wants to know?
Police officers. I'm Lieutenant Royals, Sergeant Shank.
Oh? What's the boy done?
We'd like to ask him some questions. He at home?
Yes. He's getting ready to go out. Come in, officers. What is it you wanted Nicholas for?
We'd like to talk to him.
Oh, sure. How about a drink?
No, thanks.
You?
No.
Mind?
You any relation to the boy?
Relation? Sure. I'm his Uncle Fred. Nicky. Nicky.
Yeah? What do you want? What's the matter?
These are policemen, Nicky. They want to talk to you. Right?
That's right.
Policeman. What do you want to talk to me about?
It's about your sideline at high school.
Beats me. What kind of a sideline you guys talking about?
Narcotics.
You guys must be crazy.
You know what we're talking about.
I do.
Nicholas, maybe
Listen to these guys, Unc.
Shake him down, Lou.
Hey, what is this?
Routine, Nicky.
Come on, empty your pockets.
What?
I said empty your pockets.
Oh, for the
Come on.
There. That's what I got in my pockets. A jackknife, a handkerchief, some change, and a billfold. Go on, bite the quarter. Maybe you'll get a kick.
You're pretty funny, son. Where's your room?
You saw me come out the door.
Want to take a look, Lou?
Yeah. Don't you think you'd better tell me what this is all about, Lieutenant? I am the boy's guardian.
We suspect your nephew of passing out marijuana cigarettes to students at his high school.
Marijuana cigarettes? There must be some mistake, Lieutenant, not Nicholas.
Of course not me.
That isn't what your girlfriend Joan told us.
I get it now. That kid gets caught with the weed and she tries to pass the buck to me. Why, if I ever get my hands on her...
All right, Nicholas, that's enough.
Anything, Lou?
Clean as a whistle.
Okay, Nicky, where is it?
Where's what?
The cigarettes.
Look, I told you once, I'll tell you again. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't have no marijuana cigarettes. You found me clean, didn't you? Make me some trouble.
That isn't what your girlfriend Joan Graff told us.
I don't care what she told you. You got no evidence to arrest me.
All right, Nicky. That's all for now. Come on, Lou. And we were right back where we started. Up against another frightened high school student who refused to divulge the source of his supply of narcotics. We didn't have any physical evidence on Nicky Malone, but we did believe that the young girl had been telling the truth, and therefore decided to place him under surveillance. He was our closest link to the source of the narcotic supply. For 4 days, we followed his every move. At 8:30 every morning, he left the house, walked 6 blocks to his high school, left school at 3:20 and walked 2 blocks to a coffee shop where he had a chocolate milkshake, and then returned home. He didn't leave the house at any time during the evening. On the 5th day, the boy went to the coffee shop, had his regular milkshake, and then played the jukebox. Once again, when he left the coffee shop, we followed him.
He's heading in the opposite direction, Chris.
Yeah, this may be it, Lou. He may be going to pick up some stuff.
He's turning the corner onto Madison.
Here we go, Lou. Hold your breath.
Yeah. Pretty bright kid, huh, Chris?
Yeah. If we're right about him, we've got nothing but trouble. He's disappeared.
Autolite is bringing you Mr. John Lund in Melody in Dreams. Tonight's presentation in radio's outstanding theater of thrills, Suspense.
Any New Year's resolutions, Harlow?
2 mighty important ones to help car owners everywhere, Hap.
Oh, how, Harlow?
Why, by reminding them that their car's electrical system works like a beaver every second their engine runs, and it provides energy for starting, sounding the horn, lights, heater, radio, electric windshield wiper, and cigarette lighter.
Autolite makes complete electrical systems used as original equipment on many leading makes of our finest cars, trucks, and tractors.
Right you are, Hap, and that's why my second resolution is to tell car owners to treat the important electrical system of their car to a periodic checkup for top performance at all times.
Good advice, Harlow.
Right. So, friends, have your car's electrical system checked by experts. Your nearest authorized Autolite service station has specialized equipment to service all makes of cars. You can quickly locate him in the classified section of your phone book under Automobile Electrical Service. Or call Western Union by number and ask for Operator 25. And remember, from bumper to tail light, you're always right with Autolite.
And now, Autolite brings back to our Hollywood soundstage Mr. John Lund in Elliot Lewis's production of Melody in Dreams, a dramatic report well calculated to keep you in suspense.
Right out from under our noses. How's it possible?
Like I said, Chris, bright boy.
Must have known he was being followed.
Oh, of course he did.
Lots of nerve. The law on his tail, and he still does business.
Yeah. Well, he's got to go home sometime.
That's right, Lou. He's got to go home sometime. And that's where he's going to find us. We got back in the police car and drove over to the Malone house. Parked across the street and waited. It was beginning to get dark. The shades were still drawn. I wondered if anybody ever bothered to raise them. Time passes slowly when you're waiting.
Cigarette, Chris?
No, my mouth feels like an oven now.
Somebody's home.
Probably his polite uncle. Funny guy. Wonder what he does for a living. Oh, I saw a lot of music sheets laying around. Probably in the business.
Hey.
What?
Thought I saw something moving in the driveway. Shadow.
Might be the kid. Let's go.
It is somebody.
Get your flash ready.
Okay, hold it. Hey!
All right, kid, stand still. Don't move.
What is this, cops again?
Yeah, Nicky, cops again.
I thought I shook you guys once.
Why did you shake us, Nicky?
Because I don't like being followed.
That's your story, son. Where have you been?
I haven't been anywhere.
Where'd you go after you lost us?
I went for a walk in the park.
What did you do, pick up the stuff?
What stuff?
All right, Lou. I'll hold the light. Shake him.
No. What is this, a habit? I got some rights. Leave me alone.
Come on, easy, son, easy. Hey. What's this, Nicky, in your coat pocket?
Nothing. It ain't nothing. Give me that.
Open it up, Lou.
Chris?
That's an awful lot of nothing, Nicky. 6 packs of marijuana cigarettes. We booked the boy down at police headquarters on a charge of illegal possession of narcotics. And then we interrogated him. Although he realized the seriousness of the charges, he still refused to tell us where he'd obtained the cigarettes. His guardian uncle was notified and came down to see the boy. He seemed quite concerned. We listened in on their conversation. The uncle pleaded with the boy to tell us all he knew about the narcotics. But Uncle's pleas went unheard. A few days later, I decided to bring Nicky Malone and Joan Graff together, face to face. I didn't know what I hoped to learn. Maybe nothing. Maybe something in a moment of temper. On the morning of December 21st, the young boy and girl were brought to my office. Sit right over there, Nicky.
Thanks. Well?
Wouldn't you like to say hello to Joan?
Hello, Nicky.
Know any more good stories, policeman?
Nicky, I'm so scared.
Scared of what?
This whole thing is so terrible.
She's right, Nicky. Something like this can ruin your whole life. Don't you realize that?
Oh, stop with a sermon, will you?
Your uncle seems like a pretty nice guy, Nicky. How did you turn out to be such a bad apple?
Is that part of your job, policeman? Telling people what they are?
No. No, it's not, Nicky. I'm sorry I said that. Because, basically, I think you're a good boy. I think you're intelligent enough to know what's right and what's wrong. And you know this is wrong. I don't have to reason with you. The thing that really puzzles me is why an intelligent young boy like you refuses to right this wrong. You made a mistake. We all make mistakes. Mistakes are forgivable, Nicky.
Nicky, the lieutenant is right.
Ah, what do you know anyway, loud mouth? Couldn't keep your mouth shut, could you? You had to tell him.
I hurt my father, Nicky. I hurt him very much. I had to tell the police all I knew.
Big blabbermouth. Well, find yourself another boyfriend, sister.
Nicky.
See if he'll get you a stick. Yeah.
Another stick, Nicky?
I mean...
Yeah, I know what you mean. Another stick of this.
Oh, why can't you leave me alone? Give me a trial. Send me up. I don't care what you do.
Trial? Jail? No, son. They're not the answer. Not really. I'm trying to make you understand that you've got a long life ahead of you. It'd be a shame to ruin it now. Our last chance, then. Stake out the coffee shop. For 4 days, Detective Shank and myself kept it under surveillance. The evening of December 29th, I walked into the coffee shop to relieve Detective Shank. It was 10 minutes to 7. Lou?
Hi, Chris.
Don't look so sour. Go home and get some sleep.
You gonna sit it out?
Yeah, a couple hours maybe.
I'll sit around with you for a while.
How about a cup of coffee?
Yeah, I'm up to here. No, thanks.
Anything?
No, nothing. Just stares from the guy who owns this place. He keeps leering. If you want me to stick around, go play a record on the jukebox. Here's a dime.
The jukebox?
Yeah, play something. Let's make it festive around here.
The afternoon Nicky got away from us, he broke his pattern. He did something different. Something he'd never done before.
He played the jukebox.
That's right. He played the jukebox. Billy May, wish you were here. Broken. Oh.
Thanks. Now I'll stay with you for a while. Might even have a cup of coffee.
I was right about Nicky's uncle being in the business.
What?
This is his record. He wrote the tune. He's playing it.
Whoa, what do you know? The guy's a celebrity. So that's what he does.
Lou, the night we picked up the Malone kid, we thought he was coming home with his stuff, right?
Yeah.
We couldn't see it. It was too dark. But what if it was the other way around? What if the kid was leaving instead of just arriving?
Yeah.
We've come in here for 4 days straight. That record wasn't on the machine. The day that the kid disappeared, he played the machine. Come on. Let's talk to the guy at the counter. You the owner, mister?
Yeah, I'm the owner.
Police officers.
Police? Oh, hey, now.
Don't get excited. Just want to ask you a few questions.
Well, sure, officers, anything.
There's a new record on that machine by a Freddie Malone.
Oh, yeah, him. I know him. Nice guy.
Nice guy?
Yeah. Every week he comes in, slips me a 10.
Slips you a 10?
Yeah, to put his record on the machine. Says even if it does cost him dough, he wants to push it. It's a nice tune, now. Melody and Dream.
Back at headquarters, we learned the whereabouts of Uncle Freddie Malone. He was playing piano in a small nightclub on Halstead. The place was crowded with people when we got there. In a corner off to the right was a platform. And on the platform at the piano sat Freddie Malone.
Think there'll be any trouble, Chris?
I doubt it, Lou. He's not the type. Hello, Mr. Malone.
Hello, police officers. You have a request?
Yeah. Melody and Dreams.
One of my favorites.
That's no surprise.
It was wrong, huh?
Real wrong. A lot of poor, innocent kids, Mr. Malone. Real wrong.
Poor, innocent kids.
We still don't know how the record figured in.
That was how Nicky notified the other kids he was ready to pass the stuff.
And the night we caught him?
He was leaving the house. He was on his way out to make delivery. Poor kid. Try to protect me. Yeah. Someday I'll do something for him.
Maybe. Shall we go?
The manager won't like it if I don't stick around. It's going to be a big night. Can't stick around, huh?
Not tonight, Mr. Malone. Let's go.
Suspense. Presented by Autolite. Tonight's star, Mr. John Bunn.
This is Harlow Wilcox speaking for Autolite, world's largest independent manufacturer of automotive electrical equipment. Autolite is proud to serve the greatest names in the industry. They are members of the Autolite family, as well as are the 98,000 Autolite distributors and dealers in the United States and thousands more in Canada and throughout the world. Our family also includes the nearly 30,000 men and women in 28 great Autolite plants from coast to coast and Autolite plants in many foreign countries, as well as the 18,000 people who have invested a portion of their savings in Autolite. Every Autolite product is backed by constant research and precision built to the highest standards of quality and performance. So remember, from bumper to tail light, you're always right with Autolite.
In the next 2 weeks, we will attempt to solve one of the most famous of all literary puzzles as we present Charles Dickens' unfinished novel, The Mystery of Edwin Drood. Our star, Mr. Herbert Marshall. And it begins next week on Suspense. Suspense is produced and directed by Elliott Lewis, with music composed by Lucian Morowick and conducted by Lud Gluskin. Portions of the program were transcribed. Melody and Dreams was written for Suspense by Richard George Petticini. In tonight's story, Ann Whitfield was heard as Joan and Sam Edwards as Nicky. Featured in the cast were Shep Menken, Howard McNear, Joseph Kearns, and Junius Matthews.
This is Harlow Wilcox again. When we meet next week, it will also be next year. And so, Autolite and all of us here on Suspense sincerely wish each of you a very happy 1953. Good night. This is the CBS Radio Network.
The National Broadcasting Company presents Lights Out, a summer revival of the famous series which many of our listeners will remember. Tonight's story, the eighth and the last in this series, is called The Signalman.
Lights out, everybody. This is the witching hour. The hour when dogs howl and evil is let loose on the sleeping world. Sit in the dark now and listen to Lights Out.
Hello, below there. I was calling to a man who stood beside a railroad track at the bottom of a deep and rocky ravine. One would have thought that, considering the nature of the ground, he would have looked up to where I was standing. But instead he turned and looked down the railroad line. I called again. Hello, below there. Because the terrible glare of the setting sun was in my eyes, I put my left arm across my face and waved to him with my right. He looked up, and I saw in his face an expression of intense horror. He regarded me fixedly without moving. And I shouted,
Is there a path by which I can come down and speak to you?
He continued to stare at me. Gradually, the expression of horror seemed to pass from his face, leaving it a gray, empty mask. When he spoke, his voice seemed to come from a grave.
Why do you wish to speak to me? No reason. Just want to talk. If you have no reason, then please go on your way. Well, I do have a reason. Let me come down and talk to you.
He motioned with his little rolled-up flag to a narrow path about 200 yards distant, which descended the rocky wall of the ravine. I carefully made my way down it. The ravine was extremely deep and unusually precipitate. The man's post at the bottom was in as solitary and dismal a place as I'd ever seen. I could see the railroad tracks running into a dark, gloomy tunnel at one end of it. So little sunlight ever found its way to the spot that it had an earthy, deadly smell. And so much cold wind rushed through that it struck chill into me, as though I'd left the mortal world. Hello, I'm afraid I'm intruding.
Well?
I'd better explain. You see, I'm a reporter for the London Times. You know the Times.
Yes, I know the Times.
Well, I'm a new man. I was assigned to do a series of stories on people who work at little-known occupations in the city. And strolling along, seeing you down here, I thought, here is a story.
And that's the reason that brought you down here?
Yes. Perhaps I'd better ask you a few questions, hadn't I? For instance, how far down are we? I've never seen anything quite like this before.
52 feet.
Is that considered deep for railroad cutting?
Deepest in the country.
52 feet. And how long is the tunnel?
3/4 of a mile.
I see. And that red signal light in front of the tunnel, is that part of your job? I mean, do you have to see that it stays lighted all the time?
Don't you know that it is?
Don't I know it is? Oh, look, you've been staring at me ever since I called to you. Staring as though I were something to be afraid of. I'm just a newspaper reporter, that's all.
I thought I'd seen you before.
Seen me? But where?
There. By that signal light.
But I've never been here before. It's a part of London I've never visited. No, you may be sure of that.
Perhaps I may. Yes, I'm sure I may. I beg your pardon for being so unfriendly. It's just that, well, I made a mistake.
That's all right. I shouldn't have come down, I suppose. After I saw this unusual ravine in the tunnel and your job down here, I felt I had to come down and talk to you.
I think I'm glad you did. I have very little company. This is a world here different from other men's worlds.
I can believe that. May I ask, what exactly is the nature of your job? I mean, besides keeping the signal light burning and flagging the trains, what do you have to do?
Not very much. I operate the telegraph in my hut over there. Turn this iron handle now and then. That's all.
And you're down here all the time?
Yes.
Don't you ever get a chance to take a few minutes off and get up there and top? In the sunlight?
Very seldom. I daren't leave the telegraph. By the way, I have a fire in my signal house. Wouldn't you like to come in and warm yourself?
Oh, indeed I would. This wind cuts right through me.
We'll hurry along. There. This will be better.
Yes.
I'll just put a little more wood on the fire, poke it down.
How do you stand that wind? I'm about frozen.
I've been here 8 or 9 years, maybe 10. I'm used to the wind. It never changes. Here, take this chair close to the fire.
Oh, thank you. Tell me, don't you ever feel cut off from the world? Almost as though you were marooned and isolated down here?
Yes, I do. This is a world in itself, down here. It's as wide as the tunnel is, and as high. Those are the boundaries of my world. For 1 hour, sometimes less, the sunlight falls into it, and at night I see the bright stars, as other men do. But that is all our two worlds hold in common.
But why did you ever take such a job?
Because excuse me, a message.
Certainly.
6:15, Roxborough, 10 minutes late. Received message. All's well.
Do you know, after talking to you, I feel as though I've at last met with a completely contented man.
I believe I used to be so at one time. But now, I'm worried. Worried.
About what?
I don't know. It's difficult to explain.
Perhaps I can help you.
I've been thinking of that. I've been wondering.
Tell me.
I've got to tell someone. And yet, give me some time to think it over. Say until tomorrow night, perhaps then.
You mean you'd like me to come back?
Yes, if it wouldn't be too much trouble.
I'll be here, about the same time. But why not now? Why can't you tell me now?
I want to think it over in my mind first. I want to be sure. Meanwhile, let me light your way to the path.
Oh, yes, of course.
Don't forget your pad and pencil.
Thank you. Dark, isn't it?
Yes, be careful. Everything gets damp and slippery down here at this time of the night.
I didn't think 52 feet would make such a difference in atmosphere.
There's the path. And let me ask one favor of you.
Yes?
When you reach the top, don't call out.
Very well.
And tomorrow when you come, don't call out. Tell me, what made you cry out hello below there tonight?
I don't know. Did I cry something to that effect?
Not to that effect. Those were the very words. I know them well.
I suppose I said them because I saw you below.
With your left hand across your face and your right arm raised.
The sunset was in my eyes.
That was the only reason?
What other reason could I possibly have?
You had no feeling that the words and gesture were conveyed to you in any supernatural way?
No, of course not.
I see. Well, good night, then. I'll see you tomorrow night.
Yes. Yes, tomorrow night. That night, I slept poorly. Or rather, I didn't sleep. Because the man's face was constantly before me. And there was something in the eyes of fear, a wordless crying, agony of spirit that fevered my own brain and wouldn't let me rest. All night long, I watched the face, and behind it was the sun going down in flames beyond the ravine, and a figure which I recognized as myself, one arm shading the eyes, the other waving and standing in the ravine and shouting, "Hello, below there!" In the morning, my landlady awakened me. She said I'd been crying out in my sleep all night. Throughout that day, I worked with one eye on the clock, counting the hours until my appointment with the signalman. At last it came. The sun was going down again as I made my way down the path into the dank and unworldly ravine. He was waiting for me at the bottom with his white light. I didn't call to you. It's as you asked.
I'm glad you didn't. I was waiting for you. Come along. We'll go into the hut and talk. It's warm there.
Good.
I'm glad you came. At times during the day, I feared you wouldn't.
I promised you.
Yes. I've made up my mind to tell you the story. The whole thing. Sit down.
Thank you.
But before I do, tell me, do you believe that I am in my right mind?
Yes. Yes, I believe that.
All right. Do you remember yesterday evening the fact that I took you for someone else?
Yes.
That's what's troubling me.
The mistake, you mean?
No. There's someone else I took you for.
Who is he?
I don't know.
Does he look like me?
I don't know. I've never seen his face. You see, the left arm is across the face, always. And the right arm is waved violently this way. It's as though he were trying to signal me, for God's sake, clear the way.
Where do you see him?
I may as well start at the beginning. One moonlight night about a year ago, I was sitting here when I heard a voice cry out, "Hello, below there!" It was just as you called last evening. I jumped up and looked out of the door and saw this someone else standing by the red light near the tunnel, waving, just as you did last night.
One arm across the face, the other waving toward you?
Yes, the voice seemed hoarse with shouting, and it cried, "Look out! Look out!" And then again, "Hello, below there, look out!" I caught up my lamp, turned it on, and ran toward this figure. "What's wrong?" I said. "What's happened?" He didn't speak. Stood just outside the blackness of the tunnel. I advanced so close upon it that I wondered at its keeping the arms across the eyes. I ran right up to it and had my hand outstretched to pull the arm away when it was gone.
Gone? Where?
I don't know. I ran on into the tunnel, 500 yards maybe. I stopped and held my lamp over my head. And all I saw were the wet stains trickling down the walls. I ran out faster than I'd run in, searched the area with my light, and then came back here and called Burnham and said the alarm had been given. Anything wrong? They answered, "All's well. Disregard alarm message."
Well, don't you suppose you could have imagined seeing him?
Yes, but you forget. I also heard him.
Yes, but listen to the wind whistling through the tunnel. It sounds almost human at times. It's possible to
Let
imagine...
me finish. You haven't heard the rest. Within 6 hours after the appearance, 6 hours, mind you, the 2:40 train came through the tunnel, slowed down and stopped. The engineer signaled me, and I hurried up to the cab. What's the matter?
No. One of the conductors signaled for a stop. Everything all right here?
Yes, just got the all clear signal.
Here comes the conductor now. Hello? What's wrong back there? What did you pull the cord for?
An accident.
Where's the signalman around here?
That's me.
You have a shack nearby.
Right over there.
What happened, man? A woman was killed. Killed how? She was passing between the coaches. I suppose she slipped, was caught between the couplings. But how? Nobody seems to know, sir. She was crushed horribly. On account of the other passengers, we've got to get the body off.
Have them take her to my shack. One morning, just as day was breaking, I looked toward the red signal light and saw him again.
Did he cry out this time?
No. He was silent.
Did he wave his arm?
Yes, the right one. The left, as usual, was across his eyes. He seemed to be pointing down into the tunnel. He leaned against the shaft of the light like a statue over a grave.
Did anything happen? Any accident, anything?
Not immediately. He was there. I saw him. Then he was gone. I waited for the hours to pass. When 6 hours went by and nothing had happened, I began to feel relieved. By nightfall, I had almost forgotten it and was able to read quite calmly as the hours passed. I was sitting here reading, the door open, when I heard a train. It was the midnight express from Brighton. I recognized the whistle. I got out my flag, stepped to the door. I could hear them for miles beyond the tunnel entrance. I listened to the wheels, filling the night with their driving, pounding, rhythmic beat. And I thought of the people on the train, the tired, worn-out picnickers and weekenders returning from Brighton. It made me feel responsible for them, as though I were their guardian and keeper. I listened to the rhythmic beat of the wheels. The train was nearing the tunnel mouth. I listened to the regular, powerful beat of them, and then suddenly I realized that they weren't regular. There was no rhythm, only the terrible, raging cry of a machine that has suddenly broken through its own power and is heading for destruction. It was the worst wreck on the line. They brought the dead and dying in here. They laid them at the place where he stood waving to me that very morning.
And this was the second accident after you'd seen him?
Yes. And the thing that is worrying me now, he came back again a week ago. Ever since, he's been there now and again by fits and starts.
Standing by the light?
Yes.
What does he seem to do?
The left arm is over the face. The right arm is waving. He seems to be trying to say, for God's sake, clear the way. Can't believe it. I have no peace or rest from it. It calls to me for many minutes together in a frightful manner. Below there, look out, look out. He stands waving to me.
Oh, have you seen it tonight?
No. Not yet.
Oh, will you come to the door with me and look for it now?
Yes. Yes, I will.
Do you see it?
No. It's not there.
Then let's go back.
It wasn't there now, but it may be there a moment from now. What troubles me is, what does this spectre mean? What is the danger? Where is the danger? There is danger overhanging somewhere on this line. Some dreadful calamity is about to happen. It's not to be doubted this third time after what has gone before. But what can I do?
Nothing that I can see.
If I telegraph danger, I can give no reason for it. I should get into trouble and do no one any good. They would think I was mad. I would wire danger, take care, and they would answer, what danger, where? And I would have to wire back, don't know, but for God's sake, take care. And they would, of course, discharge me. What else could they do?
Yes, I see.
When it first stood under that light, why didn't it tell me She is going to die. Let them keep her at home. When it came the second time, why didn't it tell me how the accident could have been averted? If it came on those occasions only to show me that its warnings were true, why doesn't it warn me plainly now? Why doesn't it tell me what is going to happen so that I can change it?
Listen, there's nothing you can do. Or rather, you're doing the only thing that any sane, normal person would do, and that's nothing. The important thing is to keep your balance now. Don't get worked up to the point that if you need to act later, you won't be able to.
Yeah. You're right. Of course you're right.
You're doing your job as well as it's humanly possible to do. You're not responsible for the future. You're responsible only for the present. What happens at this switch now? You've got to look at it that way.
I know. Only I can't forget that something is going to happen.
I don't doubt that. But if you keep your eyes open at all times, you may be able to prevent it.
I pray to God I may.
It's easy to say, but try not to think about it too much.
I try. But it's the responsibility that crushes me. Because of this specter, because of this knowledge of things that will happen along this line, I am responsible for every child, every mother, every person that rides upon it. I know that something is going to happen. I ought to warn them, but I don't know how to warn them. When they die, if they die, their deaths are on my shoulders.
Look, would you like me to spend the rest of the night with you? Perhaps it would help keep your mind off things.
No, thank you. I'll be all right. You don't know what a blessing it's been just to be able to tell you the whole story.
Would you like me to come back tomorrow night?
Would you mind?
No.
And when you write your story about me, about this job...
Yes?
If you could tell the whole story, everything I've told you, it would help lift this awful responsibility from my shoulders. People would know then. They might think me mad, but they would know. And the weight would be from my spirit.
Yes, I'll write that story tomorrow. Everything. You needn't be afraid that I'll skip anything. I'll bring it along with me and show it to you before I turn it in.
It would mean so much.
Yes. Now, I think it's best that I go.
Good night, then. And you will come back tomorrow?
Oh, yes.
Can you find the path?
Easily. I'm beginning to know it by heart now. Good night. I went to bed immediately after returning to my lodgings. If I had slept unsoundly the night before, I slept little, if any, this night. There were the same dreams, the man's face, his eyes with their deep inner secret and pain, and in the background the sun going down over the ravine, and the figure, no longer my own, with one arm across the eyes and the other waving toward me, crying in a low moan, "Clear the way, clear the way." In the morning, when I came to work, I felt tired, almost feverish. Could hardly wait until sundown when I would again visit the signalman. I wanted to show him the story as I'd written it. At last, the hands of the clock pointed to 6:30, and I left the office on my way to the ravine. About half an hour later, I arrived at the top of the cutting. I glanced down, and there, close at the mouth of the tunnel, I saw a man, his left arm across his eyes, passionately waving his right arm. But the nameless horror that oppressed me passed in a moment, for I saw that this man was a man indeed, and that there was a little group of other men standing at a short distance, to whom he seemed to be rehearsing the gesture he made. With an irresistible sense that something was wrong, with a self-reproachful fear that fatal mischief had come of my leaving the man there alone in his state of mind the night before, I descended the rocky path with all the speed I could make and ran up to the crowd. What's the matter here?
Signalman killed.
When?
Just a little while ago.
Not the man belonging to this post?
Aye.
Not the man I know?
You will recognize him, sir, if you are a friend to him. The body is over here.
You see?
Oh. How did it happen? He was cut down by the engine, sir, just as he was lighting that red lamp. No man on the line knew his work better. But somehow he wasn't clear of the outer rail. He had the lamp in his hand ready to light it as the engine came out of the tunnel. His back was toward it, and she cut him down. Here's the engineer now. Tom, show him how it happened.
Yes, how did it happen? I'm a reporter from the Times.
Well, sir, coming around the curve in the tunnel, I saw him at the end. There was no time to check the speed, but I always knew him to be very careful. Only this time, he didn't seem to pay any attention to the whistle. I finally shut it off when we were running down on him and called out to him.
What did you say?
I shouted, "Hello, below there! For God's sake, clear the way!"
No.
Yes, sir. That I shouted. Oh, it was a terrible thing, sir. I never left off calling to him. Finally, I put my left arm across my eyes so that I wouldn't have to see, and I waved this arm to the last. But it was no use, sir. No use. No use.
I walked away. I was trembling so that it took all my efforts to climb the rocky path to the top of the ravine. I knew the sun was going down in flames behind me, but I dared not look. I hurried back to my desk at the office and began writing the tragic end to the story.
Sir?
Yes, boy?
Is your copy ready, sir?
In just a moment.
Please hurry, sir. Paper goes to press in a half hour.
I'll have it ready. Come back in a few minutes.
All right, sir.
This, then, is the story as it was told to me and as I saw it. I make no judgment of it, no deductions. It happened. I know it happened. That is all. Except I bear with me the memory of a humble man, lonely and isolated from this world of ours, one who bore the responsibility for his fellow men so strongly on his conscience that he died from it. For I am convinced that that alone is what brought him to this end, not the train, which was merely an instrument of fate. Signed, Charles Dickens.
All right. You can turn them on now.
You have just heard the eighth and the last in the summer series of Lights Out. Tonight's story, Charles Dickens' The Signalman, was adapted for radio by Frederick J. Lipp. Starring in the role of Charles Dickens was Nelson Armstead. The Signalman was played by Herb Butterfield. Others in the cast included Boris Apland, Nathan Davis, and Jess Pugh. And now it's time to turn the lights out for the summer. We've enjoyed bringing you these shows, and if we've managed to send a few chills up and down your spine, well, that's what we set out to do. Beginning next week at this time, be sure to hear the new Judy Canova show, which returns to the air. You'll have the time of your life, so be sure to listen. Lights Out was produced and directed by Albert Cruz. This is NBC, the National Broadcasting Company.
KERA-FM Dallas, North Texas' only listener-supported radio station. If this is your kind of station, become a member of KERA-FM. Membership start at $15 a year. Give us a call anywhere in the Dallas-Fort Worth area at 263-KERA and join up. That's 263-KERA.
Good evening. Welcome to Playhouse 90.
Tonight on Playhouse 90 Old Time Radio, The Whistler. This evening's episode is A Case for Mr. Carrington.
The Whistler.
I am the Whistler, and I know many things, for I walk by night. I know many strange tales hidden in the hearts of men and women who have stepped into the shadows. Yes, I know the nameless terrors of which they dare not speak.
Tonight, transcribed, it's The Whistler's strange story, A Case for Mr. Carrington.
As usual, on Saturday afternoons, the veranda of the Myrtle Bank Hotel, Jamaica, was a gathering point for men in white linen suits whose only talk was of sugar 24 hours a day. But Gordon Stone, for once, wasn't thinking of sugar. The girl was too charming. The cool, wind-blown American beauty of her too irresistible. He was admitting it to himself now. This wasn't just a passing thing with a summer tourist. He was in love, and he knew it.
How's the drink?
Wonderful. What is it?
Myrtle Bank punch, specialty of the house.
I'd enjoy it more under different circumstances.
Oh, stop it, Paula. You're not going to leave Jamaica. You're going to stay. We're going to be married, and everything will be...
You're wrong, Gordon. I'm sailing next week.
Now, wait a minute. That's not giving me a chance. Paula, please, stick with me just a little while longer. These things can't be done in a day.
It's been 3 months. It doesn't seem so complicated, Gordon. You own part of a sugar plantation. Sell it.
Just like that?
It would bring a lot of money.
Not enough, Paula. The interests are all split up with Wakefield, his son Wade. Only 20% is mine.
Are you asking me to wait
You're not
around
being
until...
fair, Paula. This is no time to desert me. Why, I'm almost ready now.
What do you mean? Almost ready.
Why, to talk things over with old man Wakefield.
Beg pardon, sir.
Oh, yes?
A message for you, Inspector Carrington, waiting for you. What you have?
Inspector Carrington?
He's an old friend of Mr. Wakefield's, dear. You'd better tell the inspector that
Never mind, Gordon. I must go anyway.
All right, Paula. I'll get in touch with you.
Goodbye.
The rumble of thunder sounds overhead as you guide the car through the outskirts of town and down the road bisecting tall fields of cane on the flatland to the north. And you wonder, Gordon, if Paula knows, if she suspects there's a reason for those accidental remarks of yours, that from the moment you first saw her, Jamaica became a prison, and the tense trap ceiling inside you began to build like the storm overhead, and that now, with her final decision to leave you, it's got to break. At your house on the plantation, you brace yourself a little as you walk in to meet your guest.
Hello, Inspector.
Good afternoon, Gordon.
Sorry I kept you waiting.
Oh, that's all right. Hated to pull you away from that charmer of yours. But it's rather important, I think. You're meeting with Wakefield this afternoon?
Yes, in 10 minutes, as a matter of fact.
You know, of course, that the old boy's my closest friend. Went through Cambridge together and all that. I'd hate to see anything happen.
What do you mean?
Well, I'd never say this to him, Gordon, but frankly, I'm quite worried about his boy Wade. I understand the two of them have almost come to blows on this Eden proposition. Wade wants to sell his interest. His father, of course, refuses to consider it.
Well, it's a sort of chronic condition.
No, it's more than that. I think I know human character, Gordon. To get to the point, I'm very much afraid that boy's liable to do something violent.
You think it's that serious?
Could be, easily. Wade is capable of anything.
Such as?
Killing his father, for example.
Oh, come now, Inspector.
Oh, I've seen it before, Gordon. I know that look. He's fully capable of murder. And above all, he's got the motive. Incidentally, I see you have a copy of my book on homicide investigation.
Yes, I've had it for some time.
It's a little out of date now. I wrote it in the 30s while I was at the Yard in London. But there's one thing in it that'll be sound as long as there are human beings, Gordon. Given the motive, 9 times out of 10 you've got the murderer. Now, Wade's got the motive, and I'm afraid...
Now, don't worry, Inspector.
I want you to look out for his father, Gordon. You're with him all the time, the two of you in business together and so on. Well, you needn't say anything to him, of course, but If you suspect that boy's up to anything, I want you to get in touch with my office at once.
You see him to the door and then walk thoughtfully back into your study. Take his book on homicide investigation off the shelf. Flip the pages to a passage you've studied many times, underlined in red pencil.
If there is one essential in the investigation of a homicide, it is the element of motive. Given the motive, 9 times out of 10, you've got the murderer.
Carrington's creed, Gordon, and the key to your escape from the prison here. The open sesame to New York and Paula, and the $300,000 in proceeds from the sale of the plantation that will come to you if old Mr. Wakefield, your partner, dies. And above all, the thing that will send his son Wade to the gallows for a crime that you committed. Your mind is made up now. There couldn't be a better time, Gordon. The storm, the inspector. It's going to happen tonight.
Yes?
Gordon?
Yes, Mr. Wakefield.
Wade is here. You better get over right away. Looks like I may need some help.
I see. Yes, sir. I'll be right over.
Now, back to The Whistler.
Turned the plantation road into a pair of muddy ruts as you slog in second gear toward Wakefield's big house on the high ground near the gate. And you're thinking now, Gordon, of the murder that will take place before the storm passes. Of a custom-built case for Mr. Carrington, with a motive so strong against young Wade Wakefield that he made a special trip to discuss it with you. You're thinking, too, of Paula and Fifth Avenue and dinner together at the Colony Club. And a life in which sugar is simply something you put in coffee. As usual, there is a violent argument in progress between father and son when you arrive.
Question, Wade. Do you understand plain English?
Of course I understand English. I was brought up on it. But I can't understand stupidity.
I've operated this plantation for 30 years without your help.
Easy now, Mr. Wakefield, easy.
Oh, Gordon.
You'd better run along, Mr. Stone. My father and I are having a private discussion.
And maybe you'd better shut up.
Who do you think you're
talking to? Did you hear what I said?
Well, you're going to say it once too often, old boy.
When that happens, let me know. Now, what is it?
Oh, the same old thing. He wants to sell his 20% to Hedden.
I thought we'd settled that.
Well, you were wrong. And now that you're both here, I might as well tell you.
Go on.
I instructed your clerk yesterday afternoon to draw up the contract. Mr. Hedden and I have already had an understanding.
What?
The deal, in short, is made.
Wait.
I'm of age, Father. It's my interest, my money, and my decision.
Get out of this house. Do you hear me? Get out.
Oh, no, really. Don't you think you're being a little...
Get out of here before I throw you out.
Well, sorry to leave the old ancestral home. Oh, if you want me, I'll be staying down at the hotel.
I'm sorry, Mr. Wakefield, that this had to happen. Sir, you'll have to excuse me, Gordon. I think I'd better lie down for a while.
Yes?
Gordon?
Yes, Paula.
I've been trying to get you for an hour. I wanted to tell you my sailing has been moved up. The boat leaves tomorrow night.
Oh.
You haven't...
Listen to me, dear. I'm going to see you tomorrow. We can discuss it all.
You haven't told me, Gordon. Are you going to sell?
I can't tell you now, Paula. I'm sorry.
So am I. Goodbye. Dear.
Paula. Paula! That's all right. You'll feel better tomorrow.
It's 3 o'clock now, Gordon. Time still to run through it once again in your mind. Time to temper your weapon. Add weight to your legendary loyalty to Mr. Wakefield. Your obvious hatred of his son. At 4, you're sitting at the bar in Wade's hotel waiting for him to appear, talking to Sid Riggs, financial editor of the Kingston Express.
Oh, so the old man threw the boy out of the house, eh? I'd no idea it would go that far.
You just don't know Wade. No sense, no perspective. Hates his father like poison. Wade is absolutely unprincipled.
Go on, Stone. Say it.
Hello, Wade. I didn't see you come in.
Obviously.
Not that it makes any difference. I've been waiting for
Wait
you.
a minute, Gordon. This is no place.
There'll never be a better place, Sid. Stay out of this.
What's eating you, Stone? If you had any sense yourself,
I'd break your neck.
Now listen,
I want you to get out of town. Leave your father alone.
What, so the two of you can go on running the company in the same old rut, huh?
Yes. If he wants it that way.
What's your pitch, Stone? Where do you get off, and when? There's got to be more to it than loyalty to a stubborn old man who...
Another crack like that, and I'll kill you.
Oh, wait, you cut it out. Leave him alone. If it's a fight he wants, I'll give it to him.
I'll call the police. You can't fight in my hotel.
Now, come on, Wade. Outside. You feel better. This isn't settled yet.
Stone, please, Mr. Stone, don't continue it. I can't say I blame you, but the other papers...
I know. I'm sorry, Mr. Grayson.
All right. It's all over. And there's more drinks at the bar. Come now. Perhaps if we talked in the lobby, Mr. Stone?
Of course. I'm going anyway.
I do hope you realize I understand your position in this. That young Wade...
I know, of course.
I wish he weren't staying here at all.
Look, Mr. Grayson, as long as he is, you can do me a favor.
Huh?
He upsets his father terribly. Any time you hear that he's calling or trying to see the old man, would you let me know?
Certainly.
Well, thank you. And I'm really sorry about what happened in there.
It's all right, Mr. Stone. Gives them something to talk about over their drinks. But I hope it won't happen again.
I hope it won't be necessary. Good night, Mr. Grayson.
And you know that it won't be, don't you, Gordon? Because everything is fitting into place. At 8 o'clock, you pull up in front of the house. Reach into your pocket for the copy of an old letter of agreement which you've been holding out until this very moment. You find Wakefield in his study. And as he reads the contract, you know exactly what his reaction will be.
According to this, Wade can't sell out. Oh, Gordon, my boy, you're a wizard. An absolute wizard.
Well, I thought there ought to be some out for you. It's just a matter of tracking this agreement down.
You certainly found the answer. Wade can't make a move. He's forgotten all this, eh?
Yes, sir.
Oh, will I enjoy telling that young...
I wouldn't be too hard on him, sir. After all...
He's got to learn. If he's ever going to be worth anything, he's got to learn.
When are you going to talk to him, sir?
Going to get him over here tonight.
I'll have him here within the hour.
You know, I thought that's what you do, Mr. Wakefield.
Wouldn't you in my place?
I think so, yes, sir. But there'll be word Wade won't take this lying down. That's why I took a little liberty, sir.
Oh?
I told your servants to take the rest of the evening off. You and Wade will have the house to yourself. You can shout his head off.
Oh, Gordon, you're wonderful. I made no mistake taking you in as a partner.
The drive across the plantation to your own quarters is pleasant, isn't it, Gordon? In spite of the mounting wrath of the storm. There's a tense, expectant feeling, some nervousness, but not enough to destroy the excitement. It's going so well. If there were any doubt that Wade would come out to his father's house, it's erased. As you let yourself in and fumble across the storm-darkened room to answer your insistently ringing phone.
Hello?
Mr. Stone?
Speaking.
This is Grayson at the hotel. Mr. Stone, you asked me to call about Wade.
What about him?
His father telephoned a while ago from the place out there. Shortly after that, Wade left. I'm sure that's where he's going.
I see.
I hope there isn't anything to be alarmed about. But the way he rushed out of here and all...
You did the right thing, Grayson. I'm glad you called. I'll get right over to the other house.
I don't believe you can get there before he does, Mr. Stone.
I'll do my best, Grayson. Don't worry about it.
You hang up, smiling, knowing that your timing is almost perfect. But you'll have to hurry, Gordon. Wade can't leave that house before you arrive. You've got to murder Wakefield only a few moments after the two men argue and Wade drives off, heading back to town. Yes. You've got to go through with the one thing that can bring you and Paula together. Grinding over the rain-soaked road, you hope that you haven't already delayed too long. A few moments later, angry voices, barely discernible through the storm, tell you that the argument between Wade Wakefield and his father has reached its height. You stand, straining to listen, watching the house, wishing that the storm hadn't cut off the light. Then you draw back as the house becomes silent. You watch tensely. A moment later, a figure slips out the side door. And you hear Wade's car start up. And you know that he's walked out on his father once again, that he's heading back to town. It's simpler than you planned, isn't it, Gordon? Knowing the two of them so well makes it almost mechanical. You even know where to find Wakefield in the dark house. You swing onto the veranda, climb easily up to the bedroom window where he's certain to be lying down, exhausted from his own anger. You peer in cautiously. See him on the bed, moving restlessly. Slowly, you ease the window up. Lean into the room slightly. Take careful aim at the sleeping figure of old Mr. Wakefield on the bed.
We'll be together, Paula, sooner than you think.
And now, back to The Whistler.
Well, Gordon, the case for Mr. Carrington is complete now. It's simple, isn't it? So simple that the lowliest amateur in Kingston can add up the facts. Come to the conclusion that Inspector Carrington must inevitably reach. That Wade Wakefield, furious with frustration, shot and killed his own father. As the minutes tick by, you pace the floor of the old man's study. Glance up occasionally at the door to the upstairs bedroom, the room which holds the key to all your plans. To Paula, and New York, and freedom. It's only 25 minutes since you called the inspector and described young Wade's crime, when a car pulls up and you hear footsteps on the porch.
Oh, come right in, Inspector. You better come with me, Gordon, upstairs. I think the door's locked. Never mind, I have the key. Go. Dead, all right. Shot through the head.
Yes, it's just as I told you on the phone. I saw Wade raise the gun and...
A flash of lightning illuminates the room, and you get a good look at the body on the bed. Your knees buckle as it hits you. Of all the men in Kingston, Gordon, of all the men in the world, you've managed to kill the one man against whom, in the eyes of Inspector Carrington, you had a solid motive.
Mr. Wakefield was... Wakefield's waiting outside in the car. They quarreled. Wade fell and struck his head. His father brought him up here before going for the doctor. Wade. It was Wade. Yes, it was Wade you shot. Funny, isn't it, Gordon? Only this afternoon I was telling you, give them the motive. And who had a better motive to kill young Wade than you?
The Whistler.
Museum. Scotland Yard's Museum of Murder. Here in the grim stone structure on the Thames, which houses Scotland Yard, is a warehouse of homicide, where everyday objects, things like a packet of matches, a coffee pot, a paring knife, all are touched by murder. Now here is a pint bottle labeled meat juice. Perhaps you've seen one of these. Your grandmother certainly saw one. In fact, when you were a child, you may have been fed meat juice for the iron and strength it contained from just such a small glass bottle. Yet here it is, in the midst of all the other relics of death.
Well, Inspector, what do you think?
Mr. Hammond, we did our best. The little bit of white sediment at the bottom of the bottle, see it there still? You know what that is?
Yes, arsenic. And to me, at least, the means of murdering my brother.
Well, today, that bottle of meat juice can be seen in the Black Museum.
From the annals of the Criminal Investigation Department of the London Police, we bring you the dramatic stories of the crimes recorded by the objects in Scotland Yard's Gallery of Death, the Black Museum. In just a moment, you will hear The Black Museum, starring Orson Welles. Now, The Black Museum, starring Orson Welles.
Here we are, in the Black Museum. Scotland Yard's Museum of Murder. Yes, here are all these carefully labeled weapons, labeled in boxes and vials. Here is sudden, unexpected, violent death. Here, for instance, is a small mirror, such as you might find in any lady's handbag. A very pretty lady used this one once to inspect an escaped tendril of soft brown hair, but what she saw reflected was not merely disordered beauty. She saw murder strike. Ah, yes, here. Here it is. The bottle labeled meat juice. Obsolete, archaic type of writing on this label, replete with flourishes and shading. No prosaic typing. Handwritten by an expert penman. Then this was only natural in the 1890s, when this bottle became the focus of an odd, even a very disturbing situation. Of course, on the surface, the Hammond family, Liverpool, England, 1892, displayed no evil. All was happiness on the surface.
Shall we drink to the great event, shall we?
Of course, dear.
Oh, forgive me, Bob. What event? There you have it, my dear. My own brother doesn't remember our wedding anniversary. Your anniversary, old man? Which one?
Our 8th, Arthur. 8 years of happiness. Not to mention 6 years of our son.
And Arthur, you forgot. Perhaps because I wasn't at the wedding.
That's right. Robert met me and we were engaged in America. But we were married here at my aunt's.
Exactly, while I was in America myself. Well, with all that straightened out, Shall we toast the occasion? After all, how many times...
A pleasant family gathering on a pleasant family occasion. Nothing evil on the surface. Of course, undercurrents do show themselves occasionally.
Almost 3 o'clock. The time I took my medicine.
Yes, dear. Which one is it this time? The liquid or the tablets?
I took the liquid at 2. That means the tablets now, dear. Oh, you have no idea, Arthur, what it means at my age to be tied to medicine bottles. How Ruth stands me, I really don't know.
You're a hypochondriac, Robert. Let's face the truth.
No laughing matter. These sedatives, well, I learned all about them when I was in America last. One contains arsenic, the other has strychnine in it.
Oh, now you are joking.
I'm not. In very small quantities, but poison, nevertheless.
Here are your tablets and the water, dear.
Thank you. Thank you for everything, Ruth. It's not easy, I know, for a girl to be married to a man twice her age.
Don't be ridiculous, Robert. I'm very happy. And so would you be if you let yourself. Honestly, Arthur, sometimes I think your brother is super...
Do you detect the undercurrents? The constant harping by a 50-year-old husband on the fact that his wife is not yet 30? All the evil is there, deep down, underground, but it's there. One would hardly say it came to the surface in an incident such as this.
Oh. Writing someone, my dear?
Just a note to the Plaza Hotel in London.
The Plaza? London?
There. I had word this morning. Aunt Rose is very ill, and there's no one to stay with her. You've been out all day, so I've written to reserve rooms to save time before I told you.
Yes, of course. You ought to go. Dottie can watch over David, I suppose.
Dottie is a jewel among servants, dear. Of course she can.
Excellent. I saw Dr. Schubert today, my dear. He's not at all satisfied with my condition. However, we shall see. He's given me another...
Evil to him who evil thinks. Perhaps. Still, the greeting between aunt and niece at the Plaza Hotel in London was something to think about.
Darling.
Darling.
Oh, my darling. Been so long.
Too long, my beloved, too long. But now, my sweet, 3 whole days together. 3 glorious days.
Oh, John.
An interesting aunt, wouldn't you say, particularly when the young wife is half her husband's age? Now, there were some things which Ruth Hammond had in common with her husband. One was a love of horses and horse racing. It followed then that when the time for the Grand National arrived, Robert pulled himself together and took his wife to the world-famous race. And then an incident took place relevant to this story.
Oh, it's wonderful, Robert. Just wonderful.
I'm glad you're enjoying yourself, my dear.
Hello, Ruth. Imagine running into you here.
John. Oh, John.
The gentleman seems to know you, my dear.
I'm sorry. Mr. John Browning. My husband.
How do you do?
Well, thank you. And you?
As well as can be expected.
John's an old friend of mine, Robert. Aren't you, John?
Yes, I think I can say I am.
Well, won't you join us? There's plenty of room in our box, and I'm sure we'll be happy to have you.
A casual meeting, a simple introduction, a gesture of hospitality, but who would expect a circumspect young woman to cast caution and good behavior to the wind?
Dottie! Dottie!
Yes, sir, Mr. Hammond. Right here, sir.
Where were you?
I was upstairs, sir, with Master David. Is Mrs. with you?
I left her at the racetrack.
Oh, will she be along soon, sir? I mean, sir.
I don't care what you mean or what she does.
Robert, can you ever forgive me?
If you must make an exhibition of yourself, Ruth, must it be in public?
Is that all you care about? Your public pride? Oh.
I ought to bar you from my bed and board forever. If it went for my son, I would.
Robert, please forgive me. I'll never act like that again. John Browning is out of my life. Truly he is.
Very well. We shall see. Dottie.
Yes, sir?
Forget what you've seen here. Understand? Forget it all.
Well, now it was the husband's turn to visit London. Robert Hammond went to the city to see a specialist about his nerves, about the pains he believed came from his liver. From the specialist, he went directly to a chemist's shop.
I'd like this prescription filled, please. Very good, sir. Thank you, sir. Can you make it up quickly? Let me see, sir. Yes? Yes, I can, sir, but you'll have to sign a receipt for this preparation. It contains strychnine, sir.
The wife, too, was visiting a chemist. A chemist in Liverpool.
Anything else, ma'am?
No, I think that completes the list. Oh, no, I'd almost forgotten. Fly papers. You do have fly papers, don't you?
Yes, ma'am. Any particular brand?
No, but I prefer the strongest you have. I hate to see anything linger longer than necessary.
Ruth Hammond took her purchases with her. At home, she rang for the maid.
Lovely, Mum.
Yes. Is there any hot water on the stove?
Oh, yes, Mum. Cook always keeps the kettle boiling.
Very well, Dottie. I want the kettle and the dishpan. I have to soak some fly paper.
Whatever for, Mum?
A druggist, or a chemist you'd call him, in America showed me how to obtain the arsenic from fly paper. It's part of a preparation to keep the complexion fresh. And my skin is none too good these days, Dottie. Fix the kettle in the dishpan, will you please? Thank you.
Perhaps nothing more would have been thought about the quarrel in the hall, if another event had not occurred almost immediately. Robert Hammond fell ill. Not merely the imaginary illness of the hypochondriac, but an actual illness. Dr. Hubert was called. He made his examination. Then...
May I see you a moment, Mrs. Hammond?
Of course, Doctor.
I must admit I'm puzzled by Mr. Hammond's symptoms. His heart seems strong enough, but he complains of chest pains and this constant retching, you know. I'm worried, Mrs. Hammond.
Have you no diagnosis?
I'd prefer a consultation, if you don't mind.
Whatever you think. Of course, Doctor. Whatever you think best. Robert's never been like this.
A consultation. The learned doctors probed and listened and probed again. By then and waited. Dr. Hubert stood by then and waited. Outside the sick room, Dr. Davis addressed himself to the problem.
I don't like it, Hubert. All that retching. It's the prime symptom of arsenical poisoning.
The man's been dosing himself with arsenical medicines for years.
I know those compounds. The amount of arsenic is minute. Hubert, who is nursing him?
Why, his wife, of course, with some help from the maid.
I want a registered nurse in there, and no one else.
You don't suspect anything, do you, Davis?
I want to prevent suspicion if I can. Get a nurse in there as soon as possible. Meanwhile, we'll prescribe tonics, meat juices, and that sort of thing. And I want the bottles watched, night and day. The medicine, the patient, the nurse, all that's in the sick room. Everything and everyone else outside, including the lovely wife. Yes, including the lovely wife.
Now, today, the bottle of meat juice can be seen in the Black Museum.
In just a moment, we will continue with The Black Museum, starring Orson Welles. And now we continue with The Black Museum, starring Orson Welles.
1892, a man might die slowly for unexplained reasons without benefit of laboratory tests, gastrointestinal examinations, or any of the aids to life and living which grace our times 60 years later. The doctors in 1892 did their level best. They used their knowledge well. If it came to placing a nurse in charge, denying a wife access to the sick room, or merely ordering concentrated meat juice as a tonic, they performed their functions according to the time in which they lived. Thus it came about that Robert Hammond suffered in his bed, Ruth Hammond was ordered from his room, and his brother Arthur came to stay in that tense, foreboding household.
Yes, Dottie?
Oh, it's the mistress, sir. She asked me, please, to mail this letter.
That letter's open.
Oh, please, sir, if I can explain.
Well, get on with it.
Well, I was taking it to the post box, and I dropped it, and the envelope was dirty. You can see the mud, sir.
Yes, I see, but what else?
I wanted to change the envelope, sir. I steamed it open. I couldn't help but read the beginning, sir. Beg your pardon. Oh, Mr. Arthur, I'm so afraid for the master, sir.
Let me see. Addressed to Mr. John Browning.
Is it necessary to add more? To report the contents of that poor, indiscreet love letter? I doubt it. The letter read and then put away. Arthur Hammond strode to his brother's room, called the nurse aside.
I want you to keep special watch, very special watch, nurse, and under no circumstances permit Mrs. Hammond anywhere near these medicines.
Very well, sir.
But even a nurse must rest. And for an hour off each day, this nurse was replaced by Dottie, the Hammond's maid.
Oh, Mrs. Hammond. Oh, the doctor says you're not to come in here.
Please don't be ridiculous, Dottie.
Is that you, Ruthie? Please come here.
Of course, my dear.
Have they been keeping you away from me?
Oh, please, Mum.
Are these all your medicines, Robert?
Yes, dear. Most of them are filthy tasting.
Poor Robert.
Oh, ma'am, you're not supposed to touch this.
Meat juice can't be bad, Robert. It certainly smells good, like good rare steak. I wouldn't mind taking it myself. But all these other pills...
Wouldn't you mind taking it yourself, Mrs. Hammond? I wonder now. Then I'm not alone in that. Brother Arthur wondered, too. And he worried. Particularly when he found you alone in the pantry, washing medicine bottles.
Hi, Ruth. Washing bottles? Isn't that Dottie's work?
This at least I can do for my husband, even though I'm not allowed to see him.
But you did see him yesterday.
And if I did, who has a better right?
I'm not speaking of rights, Ruth. I'm speaking of wrongs.
If you have something of which you wish to accuse me, why don't you?
I may. You see, I had the meat juice you handled yesterday analyzed.
I see. You did?
It contained arsenic.
And you insinuate I put it there?
I do.
I did put something in that bottle. Robert asked me to. Some powder he had in a small box. He told me it always gave him relief, and the doctors had forbidden it.
I see. They forbade it. Well, my dear sister-in-law, we shall see what we shall see.
They saw soon enough. 24 hours later, a weeping Dottie told Brother Arthur.
Oh, the master's death. Just a moment ago. So quick it came. Oh, no time to call anybody, not even you, sir.
Dr. Hubert stated.
I personally will not certify this death until there has been a post-mortem by Dr. Davis.
And Dr. Davis reported.
Death was due to aggravated inflammation of the internal organs. The body contains something less than half a grain of arsenic. I recommend an immediate investigation by the police.
Enter Inspector Adams of the CID.
What's your opinion, Dr. Hubert, as an expert on this case?
It will be very difficult to have an opinion, Inspector. You see, Mr. Hammond was a true hypochondriac. Always dosing himself with patent medicines, all kinds of prescriptions, but the man's dead. And added to the difficulty is that there seems no really natural cause for his passing.
Thank you, Doctor.
Not at all, Inspector. Anything I can do to help?
From the doctor's office, the inspector made his way to the house of mourning. There, his first object of inquiry was Arthur Hammond.
So you are suspicious of the cause of death?
Wouldn't you be, Inspector?
I need more facts in my possession. There are such things as libel laws, sir, and charges of false arrest.
Well, perhaps you'd be interested in this, Inspector.
And what is it?
A letter written by the widow to her London paramour and discovered quite by accident.
Thank you. Anything else, Mr. Hammond, which you think might be of
There were
interest?
several things which Brother Arthur brought to the attention of the inspector, and these, in turn, brought Dottie into the presence of the man from the yard.
Now, there's no need to be frightened, girl. What's all this about your mistress and a bottle of meat juice?
I saw her, sir. I saw her slip something in the bottle. I kept the bottle. Here it is, sir.
Did anyone else touch this bottle besides Mrs. Hammond?
Only nurse, sir. She guarded the medicines proper, she did. Much better than I could.
I see. Then you are prepared to swear that no one touched the bottle before or after Mrs. Hammond except the nurse?
Yes, sir, I am. Oh, swear, sir? You mean in a trial like, Inspector?
Yes, my girl. Oh, hadn't you thought of it before the police came in?
The questioning completed for the moment, Inspector Adams gave his instructions.
Sergeant, I want the Hammond house searched from top to bottom. Here's the warrant. Get to work.
The sergeant took a crew and did go to work. Every nook and cranny of the old house was seen to. Closet walls were sounded in search of secret panels. Hearthstones were pried loose. Even the coal bin was emptied. Sergeant Hall reported back to the inspector.
Here it is, sir. Arsenic. All over the place.
It followed that the next morning.
I have a warrant for your arrest, Mrs. Hammond. The charge is willful murder.
It was a celebrated trial. The courtroom in Liverpool was packed with the curious, the cruel, and the very, very few who found some sympathy in their feelings. The newspapers enjoyed their traditional field day with the lurid, scandalous details of the story. The really pertinent details of the case were few, however, simple and contradictory.
Arsenic was found in the possession of the prisoner. She did not deny it was hers.
Dr. Davis testified concerning the post-mortem.
I found a little less than half a grain of arsenic in the body.
Yes, Doctor, but would you say that this poison was the cause of death?
I would.
And then the contradictions set in. Asked the same question, Dr. Hubert replied.
No, I would not say so, and certainly not in the case of this patient.
Ah, and why not?
Mr. Hammond had accustomed himself over the years to taking arsenic in small quantities. He was used to it.
The prosecution countered this with the Liverpool chemist who Mrs. Hammond had visited while her husband was in London.
She came in that morning with a list. The flypaper was not on the list.
The chemist had no idea what Ruth Hammond had wanted with the flypaper. However, Dottie did.
Yes, sir. She boiled the arsenic out of the flypaper.
Boiled it out? Whatever for?
She said to make something for her complexion. She told me she'd heard about it in America, sir.
And did you, Dottie, ever see her use such a preparation?
No, sir. I never did.
And the defense? Well, in 1892, the accused did not testify in self-defense. The accused was permitted, however, to make a statement under oath.
My Lord Justice, with your permission, my Lord, 3 things. I did soak the flypapers for the arsenic they contained. I made a cosmetic preparation from it, which I learned about from Dr. Henry Maysfield in Brooklyn, New York, when I lived there. I did put powder into my husband's medicine. He asked me to. It was a preparation he brought back from London, which had helped him many times before, but which his doctors here refused to give him. Finally, my Lord, I wish to state that for the sake of our son, for David's sake, my husband and I had a complete reconciliation. And on the day before his death, I made a full confession of the terrible wrong I had done him.
The jury retired. The court waited. The prisoner waited. The crowds waited. Hours passed. Then the knock on the locked door of the jury room. The bailiff opened. The 12 good men and true filed back in the jury box. The judge's gavel rapped. The clerk asked the foreman to rise and face the prisoner. He intoned the traditional question. Gentlemen of the jury, have you reached a verdict?
We have.
And what is your verdict?
We find the prisoner guilty of premeditated murder.
And today, the bottle of meat juice, the decisive clue in this case, is still to be found in the Black Museum.
Orson Welles will be back with you in just a moment. Now here in person is Orson Welles.
Well, they didn't hang Ruth Hammond. No, despite the fact that public sentiment was so much against her at the start of the trial, it changed quite drastically once she had been sentenced to hanging. Letters, telegrams poured into the Home Office and to the London Times, and a reprieve was granted. And after many long years in prison, Ruth Hammond was released. She returned to America to die there, forever silent about the crime for which she had been punished. The judge himself, when asked concerning her guilt or innocence, replied only, "I never did express an opinion." And now, until next time, until we meet here in the Black Museum for another story, I remain, as always, obediently yours.
The Black Museum, starring Orson Welles, is presented by arrangement with Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer Radio Attractions. The program is written by Ara Marion, with original music composed and conducted by Sidney Torch. Produced by Harry Allen Towers.
Mutual presents The Mysterious Traveler.
This is The Mysterious Traveler, inviting you to join me on another journey into the realm of the strange and the terrifying. I hope you will enjoy the trip, that it will thrill you a little and chill you a little. So settle back, get a good grip on your nerves, and be comfortable. If you can. What is our story tonight? Why, tonight we're going to see what happens when an honest man yields to temptation and descends into the murky depths of murder and despair. It's the story I call Dark Destiny. In the office of Dr. William Norris, Joseph Harrison, a man in his 30s, is waiting anxiously as in the next room Dr. Norris is finishing his examination of pretty young Mary Harrison.
It isn't anything serious, is it, Dr. Norris? Please tell me it isn't.
I'm afraid it's too soon to say, Mrs. Harrison. Until the X-ray plates are developed, I can't say yes or no. And now, your husband is waiting outside, and he's probably beginning to worry,
Yes,
so...
of course, Doctor. Poor Joe, he does worry about me.
Well, here's your wife, Mr. Harrison. You must have thought I'd kidnapped her.
No, but I was getting a little worried, Doctor. I hope you didn't find anything very wrong.
Well, I took a complete X-ray series. I won't be able to tell much until they're developed. I'd like Mrs. Harrison to come back the day after tomorrow, if she can.
Of course, Doctor.
Any time in the day that's convenient to you will be quite all right. And meanwhile, I'll write out a prescription your husband can have filled. Will you step in a minute, Mr. Harrison?
Sure thing. I'll be with you in a minute, Mary.
All right, darling.
Won't you sit down, Mr. Harrison?
All right. What is it, Doctor? Bad news?
I'm afraid so.
Does that mean Mary's going to die?
No, Mr. Harrison. Not that serious. But within a few months, she will be confined to her bed. I'm afraid she faces a life of invalidism.
Oh, no. No, it can't be.
I'm sorry, Mr. Harrison.
Doctor, there must be something you can do for her.
Well, I don't want to raise your hopes, but...
Yeah?
There's one doctor in this country who, through a very remarkable type of operation, has been able to help people like your wife.
Well, why didn't you say so? Let's get him.
Well, I must warn you, Mr. Harrison, this operation doesn't always meet with success. In many cases, the patient shows no improvement at all. After all, it's still in the experimental
Look,
stage.
if there's 1 chance in 100, I want Mary to have that chance. Now, please, get this doctor to operate on my wife.
All right, I'll try. But his services are in great demand. And, his average fee for an operation is about $1,500.
$1,500?
Of course, if you can't afford that, he might consider the circumstances.
No, I can afford it. I can afford anything that Mary needs.
Very well, then I'll get in touch with him at once.
Yeah, sure. You make the arrangements right away. I'll get hold of the money. I'll have it by tomorrow, sure.
Darling, help me off with my coat, will you?
Oh, sure.
Hey.
How you feeling?
Oh, my backache is much better since I took the medicine Dr. Norris gave me. I'm sure I'm going to be all right, Joe.
Of course you are. He's one of the best doctors in the city. He'll have you well in no time.
Did he tell you anything more, Joe?
No, not a thing. Except that the treatment may take a little time. That's all.
A little time?
Yeah.
Oh, dear, I hope it won't be too expensive. Your business has fallen off, and we've used up our savings
Now, don't
account.
you worry about the money. Don't you worry about anything.
All right, darling. I won't. But aren't you going to take your coat off?
No, I got to get that prescription the doctor gave me filled. You just take it easy till I get back. I might stop in at the shop, too. There's something I have to tend to. Danvers, I'm Joe Harrison.
Oh, yes, Mr. Harrison. Please sit down.
Thank you.
I see that you want to borrow $1,500 from us.
That's right. I've got to have it right away.
Unfortunately, the security you wish to offer your home is...
What's wrong with it? It's a swell little house in a good section. It's all in good repair. Houses are worth money these days.
Quite true. But you already have a first and second mortgage on it, and I Well, prices are falling, so I'm afraid we can't make any further loans on it.
I've got to have the money. I've just got it.
I'm sorry to hear that, because there's nothing we can do to help you.
Then forget about the loan. I'll sell the house. Plenty of people want houses.
That's true, too, but I don't think you can possibly clear much over the mortgages on a sale. A few $100s, perhaps. You see, those mortgages were issued when prices were at their peak. And now, well, things have changed.
Yeah, I see they have.
You say you're not employed, Mr. Harrison.
No, I own a shop. You see, I'm a locksmith.
That means you're never certain of your income. Now, if you had a job, a regular income that could be depended upon...
What are you getting at? You mean you're not going to let me have the money?
I'm afraid I can't, Mr. Harrison.
But your ads say that you lend up to $2,000 on a personal note. I only want $1,500. Look, you got to let me have it.
I certainly wish I could, but under the circumstances, I'm sorry. Very sorry, but there's nothing I can do.
I'm afraid the collateral you suggest isn't satisfactory, Mr. Harrison. We'd lend you the money if we could, but we just can't. Sorry.
But I've just got to have it. I've got to. Sorry. Do you hear me? I've got to have it.
Sorry.
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 Sorry. Joe, you're not eating. And you're so quiet. Is anything wrong?
What? Oh. No, of course not.
You're worrying about me, aren't you?
No, Mary, of course not. I was just thinking about some changes at the shop.
Darling, you don't have to lie to me. I know you're worrying. But I'm going to get better. Really, I am. I promise you.
Sure you are. Sure. Dr. Norris said so. You're going to be well in no time. Well, I have to go out now. I have an appointment with Horace Latimer. You remember I told you about him? We grew up together. I may be pretty late, so don't wait up for me.
Joe had no appointment with Horace Latimer, but he went to see Horace anyway, for they had been boyhood friends until their paths had separated. Horace had grown rich, and Joe hoped desperately that Horace would lend him the money he had been trying to raise all day. A sum that would mean nothing at all to Horace.
$1,500, that's rather a lot of money, Joe.
I know it is, Horace, but it's for Mary. It's for an operation. I've got to have it.
I see. Well, now, why don't you try the bank? You have a house,
I have tried the bank, and a half a dozen loan companies. They all turned me down. They said my security wasn't good enough.
Oh, I see. Oh, that's too bad. But you know, I don't quite understand why you came to me, Joe.
Because we're friends, that's why. Because when we were boys, we agreed that each of us would always lend the other a helping hand if we could.
Boys don't understand business very well, I'm afraid, Joe.
Oh, I guess not. They don't understand business. They just understand friendship. You know, if I had the money, I'd lend it to you if you needed it.
I don't doubt that at all, Joe, and you can bet I'd lend it to you if I had it. But that's the trouble. I haven't any ready cash. The income tax, you know, and, well, a couple of shaky investments that I'm trying to bolster up.
All right, Horace. Never mind explaining. I get the idea. You're not going to lend me any money.
Now, really, Joe, I would if I could, but I can't. I'm sorry.
Save your sorrow for somebody who wants it. I don't need your money, you hear? I'll get it someplace else. I'll get it someplace. Somehow.
After he had slammed out of Horace Latimer's expensive home, Joe stood for a moment on the dark street corner, staring back with bitterness in his face.
Yeah, you're sorry. I'll bet you are. What a sap I was to think you were a pal of mine. Should have known better. I should have known.
Buddy?
Huh?
You speaking to me?
Oh, no. Sorry, I guess I was just thinking out loud.
That's okay. Hey, got a match?
Match? Sure, yeah. Here you are.
Thanks. Okay, hold it just like that. Make a move and I'll plug you.
Gun? Why, well, you're...
Yeah, this is a stick-up. Hand over your dough and make it fast, see?
My dough? That's a hot one. I'm out trying to raise money, and so are you. Well, I only got $1 on me. Take that if you want it. Anyhow, it's more than I could raise.
Don't try to kid me. Stand still while I see what you got in your pockets.
Go ahead.
Wallet. And a leather case of some kind.
You'll find exactly $1 in that wallet. You made a mistake, I tell you. I don't live in this ritzy neighborhood. I just came here to try to borrow a little money.
One measly $1. But I'll bet you got a roll hidden in this leather case. It's heavy enough.
There's nothing in there but my emergency kit.
Yeah, well, I'll see for myself. This kit is full of skeleton keys and pick locks and stuff. What are you, anyway, a second-story worker?
I'm a locksmith and a safe repairman, if it's anything to you.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Now, how about taking that $1 and letting me go on my way? I'm in a hurry.
Not so fast, pal. Were you leveling just now when you said you were trying to raise dough?
Sure I was. I got to have $1,500 by tomorrow. And what's it to you?
You'd be surprised, pal. Okay, I'm putting the gun away, but you ain't leaving yet.
Why not?
Because me and you are going to talk business. I got a plan that'll get us both all the dough we need. 2 more beers, waiter. Well, Joe, is it a deal on my proposition?
I don't know, Mike.
Sure you do. There's nothing to it. You can open locks and safes.
Yeah, but
I know a house where there's a safe with plenty of dough in it. You and me together, we'll go get it. We'll make a team.
But burglary. I've never stolen anything in my life.
Listen, you need dough bad, don't you? And so do I. Plenty bad.
Yeah, but
You said you'd do anything to get it, didn't you?
Yeah, I did.
Then what are you hanging back for? All you gotta do is get the back door open and the safe. You can do that, can't you?
Yeah, I suppose so. But
then forget the buts. In a half an hour, you'll have your $1,500 and more. How else are you ever gonna get it? Answer me that.
I don't know.
Hey, look. You saw all those big houses lived in by guys with dough. How'd they get it? They took it from somebody else, every one of them.
Yeah, I suppose so. You sure the money's there?
I'm positive. Look, I was casing the joint, and I looked in a window just in time to see the old geezer put a roll of bills in a safe you can open with your teeth.
All right, I'll do it. I gotta have that money.
And so, half an hour later, Joe and his newfound acquaintance stood in the shadows of the rear entrance of an imposing brick house, listening intently. Not a sound any place. Good thing there's no dogs around. 1 o'clock. Everybody's hit the hay long ago. This'll be a cinch.
That lock looks easy enough. I shouldn't be doing this. Must be some other way to get the money.
Don't be a sucker all your life. You gotta take what you want in this world. Go on, get the door open. Gotta get inside before we're spotted.
Well, all right. It'll only take a second, I think. Yeah, it's coming. There, it's unlocked.
Let's get inside. Come on. There. Good. We're in. Nobody spotted us. The safe's in the library this way. Don't make any noise.
You sure there's only the 2 of them in the house?
Yeah. The old guy and his butler. Probably both deaf as posts. Here we are. Here's the library door. Come on in. The safe's behind a picture on this wall.
That picture there?
Yeah, that's the one. I'll lift it down. There you are. There's the safe. Just a kid's toy.
Kid's toy? Nothing. That baby's tough.
Well, you can open it, can't you?
Yeah, but it'll take at least a half an hour.
Get going. We can't stay here all night. Hurry it up. You've been 40 minutes on that thing.
I told you it was tough. It's coming now. There you go.
About time, too. Now, let's see what's in it.
Here's the cash box. Wait till I open it, and we'll know what we got. There, look. Dough, cash, Mazuma. What did I tell you?
There must be thousands there.
Easy, come on. Let's count it and divvy it up.
No. Never mind. Just give me the 1,500. That's all I want. You can keep the rest.
You kidding?
No, that's all I want. Just the 1,500 that I need.
Okay, if that's the way you want it. Here you are. 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, $1,500 bill.
$1,500.
Just for an hour's work? Easy money, huh? Hey, look. What do you say we crack a couple of more cribs tonight?
No. I just want to get out of here now.
Someone's coming.
Someone's coming?
Yeah. Here, get behind this door. I'll take care of this.
What are you going to do?
Never mind. Now shut up.
Who's there? Jenkins? Jenkins, is that you? The safe's open. The burglars. Jenkins! Jenkins, call the police, quick!
Nobody's calling any cops tonight, mister.
What? You're a thief! Jenkins! Jenkins!
Maybe that'll convince you.
Why did you hit him?
What'd you expect me to do? Hold his hand?
Wait a minute. Looks like he's dead.
I wouldn't be surprised. He don't seem to be breathing any to speak of.
That's murder.
So it's murder. You're in it just as much as me. Don't forget that.
Yeah. I'm an accessory to murder.
Cut that guff and let's get out of here. Or do you want to get caught?
No, of course not.
Then come on, let's get going. Okay, here we are. Come on in.
Why did you make me come here? Why can't I go home?
You heard me. Come on in. That's better. Now, take off your hat and stay a while.
Well, I can't stay, Mike. My wife, she'll be worrying. I got to go home to her.
You've got worse things than your wife to worry about, pal.
What do you mean?
I mean the cops. Or have you forgotten you're wanted for murder?
No, I haven't forgotten. I'll never be able to forget. Why did you kill him? Why?
So we wouldn't have to go to jail. Would you rather have gone to jail, Joe?
Oh, of course not. Yes, I would. I'm all mixed up. How did I get into this anyway?
You needed dough. That's how you got into this, and you got it. So cut out the sob stuff. We're in the clear. Nobody got a peep at it.
Why won't you let me go home? Why do you make me come to your room here?
2 reasons. The first is I want to make sure you know what it'll mean if you let anything slip.
I know. You don't have to tell me. I won't let anything slip.
If I thought you might, I'd slit your throat right now.
I won't, I tell you. I have to live. For my wife's sake.
Okay. And the second reason you're here is so you and me can have a little talk.
Talk? What kind of a talk?
Joe, I like the way you got that door and that safe open tonight. You and me got a future together.
I don't know what you mean.
Oh, yes, you do. As soon as the heat's off, we're going to do another little job together.
Oh, no. No, I won't. I won't.
Yes, you will.
I tell you I won't. You can't make me.
Oh, yes, I can. Because if you don't, I can always send a little note to the cops telling them it's you they want for that killing tonight.
You wouldn't do that. They'd get you, too.
I'd be a long ways away by then, but you can't get away. You got a business here and a sick wife. You couldn't leave them. Well, now you see why you're going to do what I say?
You dirty... You...
No, don't say it. You don't think you can pull a job and then go on as if nothing had happened to you. You're mixed up in murder. And somebody's always got to pay for murder. One way or another.
I only did it for Mary's sake.
Don't matter why you did it. You're in it now and you can't get out. Not without paying in some way.
I got a good mind to go to the police to confess. Get this off my chest.
Oh, no, you don't. You see this gun? I'd plug you in a second if I... Get away. Let go of my hand. Let go.
You've got me into this. You're not going to make me go any further into it. Take that away from you. Mike. He's dead.
tried to shoot me and shot himself. I gotta get away from here. I gotta get back to Mary.
In a daze of horror, Joe Harrison found his hat and made his way to the street. His mind was a dizzy whirl of thoughts which he could not control. They went around and around in his head.
I'm a murderer. They'll catch me. They'll hang me. I didn't mean to do it. I just wanted the money. The money was all. I wanted the money to make Mary well, that's all. Now they'll catch me. They'll hang me. I got to escape. Got to. Mike said the murder has to be paid for somehow. That isn't true. Sometimes you can escape if you're lucky. I just got to be lucky. I need a drink. Got to have a drink before I go crazy.
So Joe Harrison stumbled into a tiny bar on a dark street. Struggling to control his shaking hands and to keep his voice normal, he ordered a double rye and gulped it down. Then, as his senses cleared a little, he heard the radio at the end of the bar broadcasting a warning to the city.
The police department is asking you to be on the lookout for the following man. Wanted for the brutal murder committed in Gramercy Park section 2 hours ago. Please make a note of the following description given by the victim before he died. The description follows.
Hey, look, buddy, what's the idea? What'd you shut the radio off for? Answer me, what'd you do it for?
Because I was sick of listening to it, that's why.
Oh, is that so? Well, I'm not, see? And I got an idea maybe there was some other reason you didn't want to hear it. So I'm going to turn it on again.
Oh, no, you mustn't.
Well, I'm going to. And if you want to make a try for a break, I got a gun right here under the bar, you see? Now let's hear what the killer looked like.
I repeat, be on the lookout for a man of medium height, lean and wiry, with reddish-brown hair. If you see such a man, report at once to headquarters. We now turn you back to our regular night program of popular dance tunes.
Lean and wiry with reddish-brown hair, huh? Well, that ain't you. You're kind of heavy-set and black-haired. For a minute there, you had me going. I was positive you was the killer, the way you didn't want me to hear the description. Just jumpy, huh? Well, here, have another drink on the house, huh?
Oh, thanks. I gotta go home. I need some sleep. Yeah, that's what I need. Some sleep.
Aghast at how close he had come to giving himself away, Joe Harrison hurried home. It was Mike the police were looking for, not Joe Harrison. It was Mike whose description they had. Joe Harrison was safe. Safe. Hardly able to believe in his own good luck, Joe reached his home and let himself in. Mary was already asleep. Quietly, he got into bed and at last fell asleep himself. A sleep troubled by nightmares that gave him no peace. When he woke, it was morning, and Mary was preparing breakfast.
Good morning, darling. What time did you get home, anyway? I waited up for you almost till 2.
I was pretty late. I stopped at the shop and did a little work. Forgot to watch the time.
And this morning you looked terrible. I know. You're worrying. About me. But you mustn't, darling. I'm going to be all right. Really, I am.
Of course you are. I'm going to see to that.
What do you think? Dr. Norris called up last night. Wanted to talk to you. He said he had good news for you.
Good news?
Mm-hmm. But he wouldn't tell me what it was. I don't know why. He asked for you to stop in at his office this morning.
Yeah, I think I know what it is. Yeah, sure. I'll go right over and see him.
Oh, but, darling, you're going to eat breakfast first, aren't you?
No, I'll eat when I get back. I want to see the doctor first. Anyway, I'm not very hungry.
All right, Joe. But please hurry back. I want to know what the doctor said.
Yeah, sure, Mary. I'll be right back. But everything's okay now. Everything's okay.
After he left the house, Joe bought a morning paper. Big headlines told of the murder the night before, but he scarcely saw them. His eyes hurried through the story until he found what he was looking for. The news that Mike's body had been found. The man Mike had struck had given his butler Mike's description before he died, but he hadn't seen Joe at all. So the police had listed Mike's death as a suicide or an accident and closed the case. Joe Harrison was safe. Perfectly safe.
Safe? I'm safe. Sometimes you can get away with murder, not have to pay anything. If you're lucky. And I've been lucky.
When he entered the doctor's office, Joe's expression was that of a man who had just faced disaster and been rescued at the last moment. He seated himself and tossed the folded newspaper into the wastebasket.
Good morning, Doctor. Mary said you phoned that you had good news.
Oh, yes, Mr. Harrison. Yes, I called you last night after I got in touch with the surgeon I spoke of yesterday, Dr. Nelson Richards. I wanted to tell you that he had agreed to operate on your wife.
That's swell, Doctor. That's swell. I got the money right here in my pocket.
The money, yes. Yes, I was going to tell you that Dr. Richards had said not to worry about that. You could take as long as you wanted to pay it.
As long as I wanted. Then it wasn't necessary. I didn't have to do it. I didn't have to do it.
I'm afraid I don't understand, Mr. Harrison.
Oh, never mind, Doctor. I mean, here's the money. I got it right here. I want to pay for it. He's got to take it right away. What's the matter? Why are you looking at me like that for? The operation is going to cure Mary, isn't it? You said it would. You can't go back on your word now. You can't, do you hear?
It's not that, Mr. Harrison. Yes, the chances are the operation would have cured your wife. But, well, unfortunately, Dr. Richards was the only man in this country able to perform it.
Well, so what? He said he'd do it, didn't he? So what's the hitch?
Mr. Harrison, Dr. Richards won't perform the operation now.
Why not?
Dr. Richards was tragically killed last night by a burglar who broke into his home on Gramercy Park.
This is the mysterious traveler again. Fate plays strange jokes sometimes, doesn't she? Poor Joe Harrison. He forgot that good can never come out of evil, and that crime must always be paid for by someone. If only he hadn't let himself be tempted. But he did. What became of him? Why, he devoted himself to taking care of his invalid wife, Mary. But his deed continued to weigh on his mind. And when she died several years later, he confessed everything to the police. I do hope his experience is proof that crime really doesn't pay. I always say... Oh, you have to get off here. I'm sorry. But I'm sure we'll meet again. I take this same train every week at this time.
You've just heard The Mysterious Traveler, a series of dramas of the strange and terrifying. In tonight's cast were Maurice Toplin, Joseph Julian, Elaine Kent, Palmer Ward, Kenny Lynch, and Bill Smith. Original music was played by Charles Paul. The Mysterious Traveler is written, produced, and directed by Rob Arthur and David Cogan. Listen next week to a tale titled
Flight from Fear.
Another strange and shivery tale of the Mysterious Traveler. The Mysterious Traveler has come to you from our New York studios. Carl Caruso speaking. This is the Mutual Broadcasting System.
Strange Wills. Stories of strange wills made by strange people, starring the distinguished Hollywood actor Warren Williams, and featuring Lorene Tuttle, Perry Ward, with Howard Culver and an all-star Hollywood cast, and the original music of Del Castillo. I devise and bequeath to my heirs the 7 deadly sins: envy, hate, jealousy, anger, despair, pride, and revenge. And here is our distinguished star of radio, stage, and screen, Warren Williams.
These are stories of strange and unusual wills. Wills which to some are harbingers of good fortune,
while to others messengers of misery. Nor are any of us safe from the evil and diabolical plans of men and women, who, frustrated in life, seek the bitter fruits of revenge in death, so that no reflection can fall on any person or persons living or dead. Time, names, and locale have been changed. Only the evil intent of the dead, departed, remains. You'll presently see what I mean. But first, let's hear a word from your announcer.
Here is Warren William as John Francis O'Connell in One Shining Hour.
If Lucretia Borgia earned the dubious honor of being the mad killer of Italy, I wonder what history will call her direct descendant, Professor Don Borgia. That he was brilliant is attested to by his degrees from universities and colleges the world over, and from the many books he had published at the turn of the century. That he was evil is also a matter of record. For Professor Don Borgia was expelled from Europe, his name stricken from the councils of all reputable institutions, and he, finding himself an outcast, took his young daughter and came to America. I'd heard only rumors of why he had fallen from grace. He had been accused of many things: the practice of medieval sorcery, witchcraft, and experimentation with the questionable vivisectionists do with dumb animals. When I received a written invitation to visit him at his isolated estate, I lost no time in accepting. I, too, was anxious to meet this reputedly evil genius. Even as I turned off the main highway and entered upon the long, winding, narrow road, I sensed that something extraordinary lay ahead. But I had never expected to find what I did. As I approached the house, I saw a little girl kneeling over a puppy. She was engaged in the dubious pastime of pulling small tufts of hair from its body. "You're hurting the dog, little lady." She stopped and looked up at me. I saw that she had beautiful blue eyes. Golden yellow curls cascaded down round her shoulders. She had the face of an angel. I walked up to her. "What's your name?"
"Nina."
"Don't you realize that you were hurting your puppy?"
"He's mine, isn't he?"
"Yes, that's true. But nice little girls don't torment poor little puppies, you know."
"What makes you think I'm nice?"
"Well, aren't you?"
"I heard lots of things."
"I don't believe it."
"Well, I do. I pull legs off of grasshoppers. I tear the wings from butterflies."
You are Mr. O'Connell?
"Yes, I am. And you are Professor Borgia, I presume?"
"Yes, I am Professor Borgia. Here, come in. Nina, you must leave that dog alone. The noise is distracting me."
"Yes, Papa."
And Nina,
"Yes, Papa."
you can learn nothing from plucking the hair from a dog.
"I was just trying to see what he looked like with his clothes off, Papa."
I know that I shall not live to complete my greatest experiment, Mr. O'Connell. That is why I sent for you.
No, I don't suppose that I, as a lawyer, can be of much scientific assistance.
You're wrong. What I ask you to do will be simple. It's this. I want to make my last will and testament, setting up a trust estate for my daughter, Nina. She is now 6 years old. I want you to supervise her education. She must attend the finest schools, both here and abroad. She must have the full benefit of this so-called modern-day culture. When she reaches her 19th birthday, you shall open this envelope. In it is her history, You shall then learn the nature of my experiment.
Well, Professor, what you ask is a little beyond the scope of a probate lawyer's work.
You shall be well remunerated for your trouble, Mr. O'Connell. You see, what you are doing, what you will see, has been eagerly sought for by the scientific world for over 100 years. But they've all been afraid. Cowards. I will revenge myself against these stupid fools.
And when Nina reaches her 19th birthday, what am I to do, Professor? Give her the contents of this envelope?
I cannot answer that. Only you and time can answer that question.
After the death of Professor Borgia the following year, I enrolled Nina in a very exclusive girls' school. Her curriculum had been scientifically worked out by the professor before his death. I thought my only task was to pay her school tuition and provide her with money under the terms of the trust. But when Nina was 9, I was summoned to the office of the principal, Miss Hargrove.
Mr. O'Connell, I waited as long as I could before notifying you, but it was mandatory that you come.
Why, yes, Miss Hargrove, of course. Is there something wrong?
Quite frankly, I don't know. I can't understand.
Suppose you tell me what's on your mind, Miss Hargrove.
Nina is the most brilliant girl that's ever been in this school. We all agree that she's a young genius. When she reaches 10 next year, she's ready for preparatory school. There's nothing more that we can teach her.
Oh, well, then I should feel elated.
In one way, yes. In another way, decidedly no. This girl has two natures. One good, one very, very evil. Probably a split personality. Well, I hate to tell you this, Mr. O'Connell, but I feel it my duty.
Of course, Miss Hargrove.
She has the face of an angel and the heart of a devil.
But I don't...
Let me go on. At first we thought we were mistaken. That no girl so beautiful, so amazingly brilliant. But we had proof, Mr. O'Connell, proof.
Proof of what, Miss Hargrove?
That this girl is a little fiend. She's cruel, sadistic. It started out in little things. First we found a dead canary, its heart pierced with a needle. Then Miss Saxton found her Persian kitten drowned in the bathtub. We thought them all accidents until one night last week, Carol Ann, a student who...
Who's there? You're so beautiful, Caroline. So beautiful. But I must be most beautiful. There can only be one. One.
With her fingernails, Nina had raked her face from temple to chin. Fortunately, the scars won't be permanent.
Are you certain it was Nina?
Carol Ann swears she saw her face in the light of the moon. That it looked like the face of, well, an angel. Oh, the girls are frightened out of their wits.
And Nina?
She denies everything. She blames it on the cat. Oh, it's preposterous.
Miss Hargrove, Nina graduates in less than a month. I ask most sincerely that she be allowed to graduate with her class. I shall have a talk with her, and I am positive that no more will happen during that time. Take my word for it. Nothing will happen. Nina's next 4 years in preparatory school were marred only by one extraordinary incident. She told me that one moonlight night near the end of her senior term...
Bring my horse, please. I'm going for a ride on the cliff.
All right. Well, do you think it's quite...
Do as you're told. Whether it's safe or unsafe is my own private matter.
Yes, Miss Borgia. I'll have him out in a moment.
You needn't stay up. I'll unsaddle him when I return.
Thank you, miss.
Easy, boy. I'll give you free rein when we reach the cliff. Here we are, boy. Now take your head. Faster! Faster, boy! Faster! That's it! Fly like the wind! Don't stop! Don't stop!
The horse could have fallen off the cliff quite accidentally, and Nina could have slipped off just before the fatal plunge. But was it an accident? I wasn't too sure. On the eve of her 19th birthday, Nina returned to the States from a triumphal stay in Europe. She had already received 2 degrees, one in Switzerland and one from the University of Paris. I met her at the airport. It was an exciting moment. And then I saw her. Good heavens, this couldn't be Nina. As lovely and beautiful a creature as I'd ever seen in my life. She looked like an angel. She was a symphony in blue. Nina! Nina! Here I am! Over here!
Oh, John. John. Or is it still Mr. O'Connor?
Well, now that you've grown up, it's John, I suppose.
Oh, it's so good to see you again, John. 4 long years. 4 years of work and more work.
But it hasn't hurt you any. Even I can see that.
Oh, thank you, kind sir. I haven't minded it, not at all. This summer I'm going to play, and then in October I'm going to Munich.
Munich? Good heavens. What's the attraction there?
There's a Dr. Guden there, one of the greatest minds of all time. His experiments in psychiatry are the talk of Europe. Oh, but I haven't told you, John. I'm specializing in rather a weird subject. It's called psychology of fear.
Sounds rather ominous.
It's hardly amusing. It encompasses the monstrous morbidities of witchcraft and black magic. Before I return to Europe in the fall, I hope to have had the opportunity of practical demonstration.
And who will be the subject matter of these experiments, Nina?
Men. Handsome young men that I shall bring into the flame of my office. Like the moth in the candle flame. Remember?
Part 2 of Strange Wills will continue in just a moment. And now back to Warren William in Part 2 of One Shining Hour.
On Nina's birthday, I went to the bank vault and withdrew the large envelope which I had deposited some 12 years previously. When I reached home, I opened the envelope and saw that it contained 2 phonograph records. Evidently, I was to play them. I started the first record.
I have had these records especially made for this occasion in order that you can listen to Nina's background, as I would tell you in my own words. I was barred from teaching in European universities because I dared to advance the theory that the evils of man are bred into his offspring. How was I to prove to the world that I was right? Only through a living, breathing example, through my own child. In my blood runs the notorious strain of the Borgia family. We were the master killers of Italy. I needed a wife whose blood was equally as bad. Who then should I choose to bear my offspring? After months of endless search that took me the width and breadth of Europe, I met her in England. She was in jail.
But what do you want with a woman like me, Professor? I got a record as long as my arm. Attempted murder, assault with a deadly weapon, drunk, disorderly. It goes on and on and
How
on.
old are you, Lottie?
I'm 29. Oh, I know I look 40, but that's in the way I've lived. I've been a wild one, bad clean through.
And your mother, Lottie?
Died 4 years ago in Yardsmith Prison. She was a 4-termer.
And your father?
Hanged for murder. He knifed a bloke for 2 shillings and threw the corpse in the Thames. You know, Professor, my father didn't have blood in his veins. No, sir, he didn't. It was ice water. That's the kind of a killer he was, too. Cold as ice.
Lottie, you are just what I've been looking for. I'm going to make restitution for your crime and take you away.
Take me away? Where are you going to take me, Professor?
I'm going to take you to Italy, Lottie. You see, I'm going to marry you.
I married Lottie the next month. 2 years later, our child was born. I called her Nina. She was to be the greatest experiment of my life. Through her, I would prove to medical science, to the world.
Oh, Nina.
I came in quietly to surprise you. Oh, John, what have I done to deserve this? How could he? How could he?
Nina, dear, come over here and sit down. Well, there isn't much I can say. You heard, of course.
Yes, I heard. And I know the answer to many other things. Oh, what's the use of going on? John, I want to thank you for everything you've done. You've been the one shining hour in my life.
Put your head right here on Monday's shoulder, Nina. I've always reserved it just for you. There's nothing I've seen that we can't lick. Nina, you ought to know that.
But I can never have any more self-assurance. How could I possibly marry, have children?
And why not? Are you going to let a couple of dead people ruin your life?
Will you help me, John?
Haven't I always?
What are we going to do?
I'm going to prove to you that truth is stronger than fear. We think that your mother was criminally inclined. You fear your blood is contaminated because of her criminal tendencies. Well, there's only one way to find out. And Nina, you and I are going to fly to England tomorrow morning. We've got to know why your mother led the life she did. And when we've learned that, then, my dear, we'll know what to do about you. In England, my worst fears were confirmed. Nina's mother was even worse than the record had stated. Not only she, but her ancestors for 3 generations had prison records or been in trouble with the authorities. But was this succession of crime in one family hereditary? If that was true, Professor Borgia was winning his point. What chance had Nina? I shuddered to think of the consequences. That night...
Well, Mr. Counselor, now that you've examined the record, just what is your verdict?
My verdict is still the same. That nothing your mother has done has any direct influence or bearing on what your future life, Nina.
You know, John, there's one thing you overlooked today.
Oh? Another sentence for murder, I suppose?
No, not that one. One murder more or less couldn't possibly hurt me anymore. It was this. Do you remember the picture the warden showed us of my mother?
Yes, I remember seeing it.
I turned it over. On the back was a general description. I remember every word. Hair black, eyes dark brown, complexion swarthy.
What are you driving at, Nina?
My father. You remember him too, don't you? His eyes were coal black. His hair was as black as a raven's, and he was swarthy too, as most Italians are. Do you remember?
Yes, Nina, that's right.
Now look at me, John. What do you see?
I see eyes as blue as a summer cloud, hair as golden as a host of daffodils. Why, Nina, now I see what you're driving at. But our answer isn't here in England.
No, John, it isn't. We must go to Naples, where I was born. I know it's only a straw in the wind.
At least we'll finally know the truth. And truth is the key, the real key to happiness for you, Nina. No matter how much it hurts. We flew to Naples the next afternoon. We learned that Nina's birth had taken place in St. Raphael's Hospital. Early next morning, Nina and I presented ourselves to the Mother Superior.
Our records show that on the morning on May 21st at 1 a.m. in the year 1916, a baby girl was born to a Lottie Borgia. I personally remember this date because it was the night the hospital was bombed. A horrible night.
How did the hospital happen to be bombed, sister?
A huge Zeppelin came over the city and attempted to bomb the rail terminal. It was shortly before 1 o'clock. I was on duty in the...
Ricardo, shall we attempt to take the babies to the shelter? We may have time.
We won't have time, Maria. The Zeppelin's almost over here. But have no worries. The hospital's plainly marked, and our lights are on. They will see that this is a place of God.
I hope you are right, sister. But the Germans are strange people. Sister, do you hear?
If you're frightened, pray, Maria.
The hospital! They have hit
Quick, the hospital! Maria, call the sisters, call everyone. We must save the baby. We must save the baby. We carried our surviving patients and children to the convent.
It must have been a horrible and tragic experience.
God's ways are strange, Mr. O'Connell. Strange. Now then, what else can I show you?
I would very much appreciate seeing a roster of patients you had in the hospital on the night of the bombing.
Yes, May 21st, 1916. May 21st. Oh, yes, here it is.
Thank you, Sister. Angela Amati Bonini Borgia. Yes, Borgia, here it is. Lottie Borgia, wife of Don Borgia, age 31. Gave birth to a baby girl, 12:21 a.m.
You must know, Mr. O'Connell, that Mrs. Borgia was one of the victims of the air raid. Her baby survived.
Yes, sir, I know. And that about brings us to the end of our trail. I can think of nothing more.
I'm sorry, sir, that I can't...
Sister, could I see that roster for a moment?
Oh, yes, of course, my child.
Thank you.
We've always prided ourselves on the modern way...
Sister. Sister.
Yes, my child.
I see that you have here another English woman. A Lady Elizabeth Tudor. Could you tell me about her, please?
Let me see the name, please. Lady Elizabeth Tudor. Oh, yes. Yes, she was the wife of one of the members of the British Diplomatic Corps. Both she and her baby daughter were found dead under the debris. Their bodies were returned to England for burial. The records show her baby was born just about the time Mrs. Borgia gave birth to her child. Yes, I remember now, too, that both of the newly born were lying in the same nursery when the bomb struck. The one lived, the other died. It was God's will.
Sister, were foot impressions or fingerprints kept on all the children?
Oh, yes. Immediately after delivery, a foot impression is made of each new arrival.
And those records?
Yes, they're kept here in the office.
May we see those, Sister? Both those of Mrs. Borgia's baby and those of Lady Tudor's baby.
Certainly. Just a moment, please. Here they are. Baby Borgia and Baby Tudor.
Nina, I want you to take off your right shoe and stocking, please.
Yes, John.
Now, Sister, if you will give me a pad of impression ink.
Yes, certainly, Mr. O'Connell.
Now, Nina, step on this pad firmly. There. That's it. Now put your foot on this paper. Put your whole weight down on your right foot. There, we've got it. Could I borrow your magnifying glass, Sister?
Yes, of course.
Thank you. Ridges irregular. Yes, and here's a delta formation that corresponds exactly. The core of the pattern is identical. Come here, Sister, please. Can you follow the ridges? Do you see this delta formation?
Yes, it's quite obvious.
Now let's take a look at the Baby Borgia imprint. What do you see?
There is no delta formation.
That's right. Now here we have the imprint of Baby Tudor.
Mother in heaven. This girl.
Yes, Sister. Nina is Baby Tudor. As the Mother Superior said, Nina, God's ways are inscrutable. In one stroke of the brush, the truth has chased fear back into the slimy cave of ignorance. And now, in the 20th year of your life, you're going home to your own beloved England. And you're going back a fine, beautiful, and lovely young lady.
Yes, John. And all because of you. My one shining hour. I don't know how to thank you.
Don't you suppose I'm just as happy as you are, Nina, dear? You see, I've almost been your father and mother all these years. You've grown right into my heart.
Oh, John, you were a part of mine. Stay there always, John, won't you? Always and forever.
Warren William will be back in just a moment to tell you the rest of the story of One Shining Hour. But first, here is a brief message from your announcer. And here again is Warren Williams.
This story has a happy ending. Nina is now Lady Moffat. Her home in the suburbs of London is the mecca of intelligent men and women come to worship at the throne of her genius. Of course, I attended the christening of her firstborn, and if my chest expanded an inch or two, well, I had just cause. His name is John Francis Moffat. Like his mother, he had laughing blue eyes and golden hair. I had one more problem that I wanted answered before I closed the books on the probate cause of One Shining Hour. In Maryland, I located a childhood schoolmate of Nina's. It was the little girl who had once accused Nina of scratching her face. Upon her own admission, she confessed it was the cat. But she, in a fit of childish jealousy, had named an innocent girl. She also admitted killing the bird and drowning the Persian kitten. The prank of a spoiled child. And that brings us up to the last unexplained chapter in the book. As Nina's horse plunged over the cliff, Nina did laugh, but psychiatrists tell me that laughter can be an emotional outburst caused by hysteria. Well, knowing Nina as I do now, that's the answer. The professor wanted revenge, but he should have known that revenge rests in a higher court. But what if Nina had actually been the daughter of the mad professor and the criminal Lottie? What would have happened? The thoughts are terrifying. Let's close the book before our imaginations run riot. Next week, I am going to tell you the story of a last will and testament that brought a murderer to bay. Its locale is the fog-swept moors of Scotland, a lonely castle that people shun in the belief that it is haunted. But within the doors of this mysterious castle, a drama is taking place. There is a casket, a body, and the sound of a weeping girl, and fog. Eerie waves of fog. Listen next week to the story we call Midnight on the Moor. This is Warren Williams, hoping that you will be with us again next week.
Strange Wills is written by Ken Crepine and directed by Albert Ulrich. This is a Teleways feature produced in Hollywood.